Welcome back, everybody, to the exciting knockout portion of the 2025 ChessKid Youth Championship. I'm FIDE Master, Fun Master Mike, and I'm here with Grandmaster Archers Nike of Latvia. We are back for day two. We've got 4 stars that are going to be playing us. Archers, welcome back.
Hey, Mike, and absolutely, of course, every single viewer who is watching, how are you doing? How is your Sunday going on? I can't really wait for this amazing semifinal and final to go, because yesterday, Mike, we followed quite a bit of action, a lot of time scrambles, a lot of blunders, crazy moments, and I think this day definitely is going to deliver.
Yeah, and these are 4 really, really big stars. We've got 2 grandmasters. We've got Fausti, who's knocking on the door of a grandmaster norm every tournament he plays. We've also got Marco Materia, who's the French Blitz champion. I just looked that up this morning, so that's pretty cool. Let's take a look at the format, and then we'll get really into the players. So we've already done the round robin stage. That was yesterday. We started with 12. Archers and I were there to call the action. And now we're down to 4. We call it the knockout. If you want to call it the semifinals, that would be accurate too. Best of 4 in the 2 opening semifinals. And then whoever advances, the final is going to be best of 6. All games are going to be 3+1. And there are tie breaks in case of 2-2 ties in the semifinals or 3-3 ties in the finals. So that's what we're going to see today. It's going to go really fast. Every game counts for quite a lot, even more than, say, the Speed Chess Championship, because the matches are so short. Archers, we had a player just barely get in yesterday. Remember, Fausti, he needed only 1 draw from the final 3 games. And in fact, both of the pools yesterday basically came down to the very end. It was very exciting yesterday.
Absolutely. And I think also so far the story has been more or less about 2 players who dominated their pool groups. They are Yagiz and Andy Woodward. They had a commanding lead over everybody else, and I think they also set the tone for the tournament. And I won't be really surprised if they're going to make it in their finals. But I mean, of course, you never know, because also Fausti and Marco, they definitely have something to say in this matter.
Yeah, there's definitely going to be 2 favorites today in the semifinals. We'll get to that. Let's take a look at the prizes, because they're not just playing for posterity. We're going to throw some cash their way. And there we go. First place is worth $3,000. Now I've got a special surprise. I just got back from the Cook Islands, and they actually have a $3 bill. So we're going to send them 1,000 of these bills. That's actually a joke. These are New Zealand dollars, and that's not even equivalent to 3,000 US dollars. So everybody that is competing today gets at least $1,000, because you can see the 2 semifinal losers will basically tie for third. They'll get 1,000, and if you advance to the finals, you get at least 2,000, and our grand champion gets 3,000. Very, very cool stuff. And I could use that kind of money. There are the brackets. We said there are 2 favorites. Archers, go ahead and tell us. We don't need to speculate today on this one.
Right, so the world's youngest, 2,600 grams, so Yagiz. So he was confidently winning his group yesterday. He's going to take on Faustino, who survived the scare after about, 7 rounds. It seemed that Faustino is definitely going to make it to the finals, but he lost 2 games in a row. It was quite a crazy finale, but he did make it in the final. Still, I would rank Domo's chances a bit higher. And of course, there's also the other semifinal. Andy Woodward scored yesterday, I mean, a statement, 9.5 points out of 10. How about that? I mean, basically almost 100% score, except he did make 1 draw, and he's going to face the French champion, Marco Materia.
Yeah, he treated the chess games like his puzzle-solving championship. It was all check marks and then 1 little X for his 1 draw. Yej got 8.5 yesterday. He only lost his final round. And then, not to be undone, as you said, Andy got 9.5 out of 10. That is a Title Tuesday-esque score. All 4 of these players compete in Title Tuesday. There we see Andy waiting. By the way, Andy wasn't just waiting. He was warming up, playing some bullet games. So 3+1 is going to feel quite pedestrian. He was just playing in the last hour. We had to sort of claw him back to get his camera ready. Andy, stop playing bullet. We got you down for blitz in a couple of minutes here. There we see Fausti, I presume playing from Argentina. And look at that. He's got our double exclam glyph in the background right over his head. Fausti, if you could lower your chair, he can't hear me, but if you could, we would have the double exclam right over his head. That'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, sometimes for some angles, it's very nicely visible. And also he has this amazing camera that follows his movements. And here we see Yej, he is getting ready for his game. The games are about to start. So in the first game, as you can see, Yagiz is going to play with the white color against Faustino. And the games have officially started. So let's just stay for a couple of minutes at the bird's eye view.
That's right. Yej is back to playing 1B3, and we forgot to wish him a happy 13th birthday. It was 5 days ago, so he's just barely a teenager. Of course, we have a teenage world champion, but he's back to B3. That was the theme of both pool plays yesterday. We don't know why. Even Andy laughed about it. Okay, but here we go with the action, and the E-pawn has just fallen in Yej versus Faustino's game.
Indeed. Yeah, so knight x on e5. Oh, what is this? This is pretty sharp stuff. Knight x on e5. Queen g5 is played. I have to confess, Mike, I haven't seen anything like this before. So who is going to blink first? Does Yej notice, or he mixed up? Knight f3 played very quickly. Now what happens after knight x on g2? Must be some prep. Even though the bar says black is slightly better.
This reminds me of those Sicilian Sveshnikov positions with colors reversed, where white has d3 weak instead of black having d6. This is probably in Bhaskaran Adiban's b3 course, so I'm going to have to go buy that on Chessable. But yeah, so he's got two center pawns, but a fractured king side. I don't know. This is about as imbalanced as it gets. Of course, the computer's like, yeah, it's totally cool. Nothing to see here. It's totally equal. But yeah, very, very exciting start. And I'll bet you both players are still somehow in their prep. Certainly, Yej, to take that pawn on e5, he had to know without taking very much time off his clock that it was playable.
I really like it. And also what I really love about these two games so far, Mike, is that they have a completely different approach. Because you can see here, Domus against Faustino. They're playing improvised chess. I think we are going to see a long castle from white and potentially some counterattack at the g-file. The king's a bit weakened. Watch out for bishop g4. At the same time, we're looking at Woodward's game against Materia. It's a classical Catalan position, Stonewall setup from the French champion. So two different styles and still fun to follow.
Yeah, on the left side of the screen is 21st century chess. On the right side of the screen is 19th century chess with the reverse Stonewall. It's getting a little more exciting because black played g7 to g5, but absolutely, totally different things happening. Not a single piece has been traded over there on Andy versus Marco's board. So yeah, this is great. Now, everybody has a realistic chance because the shorter you make the match, the more sort of randomization can happen. I don't want to call these chess moves random because they're well thought out. But there we have our first piece trade. This bishop on b7 gets freed up by playing c6 to c5. And that's the usual counterattack by black in the center over there on the right side of the screen.
I think Andy is in a minor trouble here because black played this typical setup of g7, g5. I think the idea was to play g4. So we're talking about the board on the right to secure the e4 square. And here I think Andy is trying to clarify the situation a bit. That's why this trade on c5 happened. Not sure what he's going to do next. I think something like b4 here to push away the bishop. Maybe try to take care of the long diagonal. We're gonna see. In the meantime, you can see on the left, Domus just played d3 with the idea to. I thought he wants to play knight b2 on long castle, but rook g3 marks already for some reason the only move.
Yeah, you know, Yej has played like 14 moves in 20 seconds, and he has spent 90 seconds or so on his last two moves, d3 and rook g3. So I that's what I was saying. I think he was just reached the end of his prep, or black played something different. Apparently, black has a big advantage here, although the queen looks to have to go back to the h3 square. Is there any other option here? I mean, could it go to h6? Seems like a very strange place for her.
Also, it would be very strange to see the very first game after such a sharp battle to finish in a draw. What was the miss? Let me check very quickly. Obviously, we are not using the engines here. Now, instead of this here, the engine says queen h6 was the correct move. Black has a large advantage because apparently white is in no position to exploit it. But I mean, of course, during a blitz game where you're playing 3+1, the players are not yet, they cannot really figure it out. And I think Yej actually is pretty happy with a draw because he has only 50 seconds on the clock. Queen h6 is on the board. Look at that.
Okay. Yeah, so either he realized the second time around that it was a better square for the queen, or what I think more likely has happened is that he just didn't want to make a draw. Now, it does guard g7. There's an open question whether or not white could have captured on g7 when the queen was on h3. Felt a little loose, but anyway, queen h6 and guarding the g7 square. Very strange square for the queen, because especially if she goes to f6 now to re-enter the game, she lines up with the bishop on b2. Now, you were saying that white's going to castle queenside. White better get moving, because d3 is super weak. something like knight b4 could be an idea very soon. So you better get really, as my tennis coach says, moving and grooving.
Indeed, so queen d2 is necessary. Otherwise, after the long castle, the rook on g5 is pinned. So here, I think that their Domos is in a big trouble. Watch out for knight b4. The pawn on d3 will have to most likely move forward. Knight b4, d4, and how exactly do you exploit this weakening of the d4 square? Can you, in some lines, take on d4? But no, Fausti just plays bishop d6 and goes for development. I think, Mike, his idea is to play f6 if white castle is long, and then play bishop b4, trap the queen.
Yeah, I was also looking for knight b4, d4 lines where you could play rook takes d4 with a knight c2 idea. We need Andy Woodward, our puzzle-solving champion, for that, but he's busy playing his other game, so we'll stick here. I couldn't make it work. I don't know if Andy could. Okay, so now the queens might leave the board. Is that a planned exchange sack, or there was no other place for the rook, or what?
What I'm struggling to understand, Mike, here, was this a blunder or it was a deliberate pawn, sorry, not a pawn, but exchange sacrifice? Maybe here Yagiz felt he has nothing better to do, so his position looks completely hopeless. And Fausti is playing incredible game so far.
Yeah, super fast. By the way, he had kind of a warm-up training blitz match with Vishy Anand recently. So even the great Yej is gonna feel a little bit easier than against Vishy. I actually saw him play Nigel Short in a 2-game match at the Budapest Olympia, just a little training match. So he's getting some good competition. He played the under 16 specifically because he wanted good competition. He's playing the #1 seed today, and he's doing just great. Now we've got a fork and just totally winning. Fausti takes game 1 as black. And Yez showing about as much emotion as he does. Let's see if we can quickly get to the other game because it is still in progress with only 10 seconds left for Marco, the French Blitz champion, in an equal position, but there are different forms of equal. And both kings are loose, but the white king looks really loose.
I mean, this doesn't feel equal to me because definitely if somebody's playing here for win, I wanted to say it's black and yet the bar shoots up in the sky immediately. Is it because of the weakening of the black king here, queen f3? These pawns on h2, f4, and h7 apparently are static. Maybe I was wrong, actually. Maybe it's white who is ambitious here. Rook g2, rook h7, rook takes on h2, just like that, and he's going to take the game.
Yeah, black wanted to play rook g1, but in the process, his own king was exposed. And so the king's getting checked around. I don't know if these checks are just intuitive checks or if he's playing them out. That's the winning check. There is no place for the king to move. And instead of putting his queen in the way and getting checkmated, the game just ends with a resignation. So Andy, the favorite, takes care of business, but Fausti with a little mini upset. I hope that none of our Spanish-speaking listeners are listening to me because they're yelling, it's not an upset, it's Fausti. But it's a generational player, and I agree with you that he is. He's just, Yej has got 2 extra years of age, which at this age is pretty big. But there we go. 4-game matches, and the first game counts for a lot. So Yej will be looking to get back in the match and even the score. Marco will be looking to do the same. Marco at least gets 2 whites out of the last 3 games. Yej only has 1 white remaining.
Okay, we can see here, Yagiz definitely is not happy because this is not the start he was expecting. But I mean, still, he has time. You need to gather the mental strength. I think also this is the most important thing. So Fausti is setting the tone of the match. And I think this match is becoming very, very unpredictable.
Yeah, you can't tell by looking at the screen that Fausti won his game, but you kind of can tell that Yej lost. He was sort of, well, certainly right after the game we saw the emotion, but he was also sort of deep in thought there, which I don't think we saw that level of, let's say, seriousness in his face. But we're about to go, here we go, with game 2. Fausti played b3. No, we have a little bit more than already, but there you go. Yej plays b6. He's become a b3, b6 cowboy. And we have b3 on the other side of the screen, too. I really don't know what's happening here.
Oh, wow, h4. Now, this is what Fausti played. I know definitely that h4 is a very modern trend against the classical Queen's Indian when black plays not g6, bishop g7, but black plays e6 and bishop e7. That's the big idea here. Now, I'm curious, how does it really change with black coming position the bishop on g7? I suppose we are going to see. So, dear viewers, don't be surprised. White plays h4, short castle. The idea was not to play h4, h5, but this is basically the modern engines tell you the h pawn on h4, sometimes it magically works in your favor, but nobody can really explain why.
Yes, thank you for admitting that it's unexplainable because computers have taught us that early G2 to G4 and early H2 to H4 are much more popular than in Gideon Stallberg's age, to bring up a name from yesterday's broadcast. So, and we also got knights going to the edge of the board there. Fascinating. I should say that we asked all the players before the event what is their favorite variant, and we were talking before the show. We would thought Bughouse, right? They're all teenagers. Actually, Fausti's not even a teenager yet; he's 11. But 3 of the 4 players said freestyle, and freestyle does lend itself to the type of creativity that we're seeing on the board today, with B3s and H4s. So there you go. The one holdout was Andy Woodward, who likes Atomic, and we will not be talking about Atomic on today's broadcast. It's too weird.
To be honest, Mike, I was really surprised about this because I thought, I mean, all of us, we grew up playing Buckhouse, and I thought definitely all of them, they're going to say it's Buckhouse, that Buckhouse is the most popular chess variant, but definitely this is a new age. And of course, because of the popularity of freestyle chess, Magnus, Hikaru, Fabi, everybody playing, obviously Gukesh, of course, playing freestyle chess. So the choice is only understandable.
Now, Marco's playing a King's Indian attack type setup, which is another kind of theme of yesterday. We're expecting White to go for the F4 push, but it looks like White is trying to time it correctly. Black's bishop on G7 sometimes gets locked in, but it snuck its way out to the square H6. But Black is very cleverly not castled kingside. So if White tries to go crazy with F4 and then F5, see that the king has tucked himself away to the other side of the chessboard. But I think White's still going to play for F4 instead of playing on the queen side. I've gotten into these positions a lot. You can still play on the side of the board your own king is on, surprisingly.
Yeah, maybe let's go full screen to this game and follow it a bit more closely. I mean, definitely White has to play F4 because this pawn structure, C2, D3, F4, very often, this is how I explain to my students, it's like an arrow. It shows you the direction where you have to play it. So basically, it invites you to play F4. But the problem is the G4 square. And yet something else might happen here. H4. Now, this is a bit unusual, and this makes me wonder where Marco is planning to play, because he can't really play the queen side. I mean, c3, b4, a5 is unavailable, and I fear that the French champion might run out of a game plan pretty soon. And the bar also says Black is just better here.
Yeah, because when you play F4 and E takes F4, you almost always take back with the pawn to control the E5 square. Very important positional idea. But since you've played H4, you're really going to be weakening your king and opening it up quite a lot. This is weird. Black is actually getting the best of the play here. White never got in F4. That's a double question mark. I guess because the pawn sack can be captured. In fact, if you're White, you almost have to. You're just going to get squashed if you don't accept this pawn. So if I'm White and I see that I can not lose by taking the pawn, I would have captured it there.
I will scroll back a bit. I think this is purely a blitz move after g5. I think what Dandy wanted to do after h takes on g5, play something like h4, and then the king is weak. You don't want to play knight x on h4. G takes on h4 exposes the king, and g4, there could be queen g7. And this is the stuff kind of you in a blitz game you simply do not want to follow, and that's why here I think Marco simply decided not to test it.
Yeah, that's a good point. You can get away with some stuff that you can't necessarily get away with. Now, remember, Andy was warming up playing Bullet. In Bullet, it's a no-brainer. You play G5 and H4. And we're getting close to Bullet here because both players have about 1 minute remaining. So it's gone from Blitz to Bullet. There is a 1 second increment, though. Okay, F5. Now, if you could take the pawn and sink a knight into E4, but I don't see how that knight on H2 is going to get there anytime quickly. It's got to go to F1 and then to D2 and everything. So, but you can't let this pawn get to F4. So yeah,
you gotta take it. Yeah, you gotta take it. I mean, there's no choice. Maybe rook f1, queen e2, rook e1, consolidate the position. I slightly don't like that Dandy rushed with this f5 move. I think he could have waited for a better moment, but I suppose we're going to see. F3 really marks the only move here. I think Andy wants to explode the position as quickly as possible. Ignore the pawn on the 5. I'm talking about rook g8, knight f6, knight g4. Again, all you need is quick initiative in a time scramble.
Right, and the first pawn's just traded in the other game. So let's stay here for just a little bit longer because the white king is suffering some pressure. Just wanted to give a quick status report. So the king is in trouble. The rooks are starting to invade for black. It says that white's better, but it's a much easier position for black to play the next couple of moves. And we're about to have a time scramble. That rook is trying to get to e4 to block the diagonal. Of course, black could play knight f6, but it might be a situation where you leave a rook on e4 and you accept the exchange sacrifice and you try to play with all your pawns on the king's side. We'll see if white is in a hurry to shut down that diagonal.
Yeah, here I don't really buy the bar. It says that white is simply strategically winning. Rook g7, rook g8, the pawn on g3 is under attack. Looks a very serious idea. Rook h3, the only move apparently here to protect the pawn on g3. There you go. There's the exclamation mark. So knight e7 also makes sense. I actually like black's chances a bit more. I'm going to ignore the fact that black is down 2 pawns. At least he's the one who is attacking, and Marco has to figure out how to defend.
Yeah, it's almost like we talk about fortresses and endgames, so white is trying to set up a fortress in the middle game here, because, yeah, white is holding, but man, his pieces are all in defensive postures here, it seems like. So he finds a way to regroup with knight c4. Maybe he's going to
That's
try
a
to trade
great
queens
move.
with queen e5, knight d6. Yep, good point. All kinds of ideas. So knight g4 stops my queen trade idea, but doesn't stop knight of g6, also doesn't stop f6. Okay, now do you sack the queen in some fancy way? It looks like this might be a forced queen trade because the rook on g7 is hanging. That's a big win for white if white can get the queens off the board.
Indeed, there's
Rook
also some
d7.
kind of a knight e3 check somewhere you could take with the knight because the queen on d6 is hanging. Yeah, it seems here Marco is really nicely dealing with the situation. Now he simply has a technical winning position. So all here Andy can do is just to make some tricks and try to survive for the moment. In the meantime, just to give you a very
No,
quick
bishop
update,
g1.
as you can. Oh, what just happened?
Yeah, sorry. On the left side of the screen, the king almost walked into a mate. Sorry, there's only 5 seconds left for each player, but the king almost walked into a discovered attack mate. Extra piece for Yej, and Yej evens the score as we look at the right side of the screen. Still down in exchange, but with better pieces for Andy. Andy looking to go 2-0 and make this match dormy, if I can use a golf term. He would only need a draw in the final 2 games if he can finish this one off. And man, those pawns are moving and grooving. I don't think they can be
Oh,
stopped. There we go.
yeah, there's fork on f1. That was really nasty. And somehow in the time scramble, Andy managed to turn around the tables. He's winning it. He doesn't really look very happy. But I think actually this is his usual expression after he got lucky in a time scramble. He's always like this.
Yeah, Fausti's got an expression too for when he wasn't winning, but he still gets the win. It's a very special expression. But yeah, Marco knew he should have gotten that one. A cauchemar for the Frenchman, a nightmare, as we say in French. And there we go. Andy only needs a draw out of the final 2 games to be able to advance. But Yesh, even the score, we have 2 black victories in that top semifinals. So they're back to square one in Yej versus Fausti. Very, very exciting chess so far. And yeah, we are going to actually take a break. I need it. The players need it. Are we going to see more B3s? My guess would probably be yes, but I know Archers is not going anywhere. I'll be back. We'll be back in only a few short minutes. So come back and see us for the final, the remaining part of the semifinals, and then, of course, the finals of the 2025 ChessKid Youth Championship.
Students, did you know that you can get a discount on any Chess.com premium membership? If you're enrolled in a college, university, or high school in a participating country, you can get 50% off any yearly or monthly premium plan, diamond, platinum, or gold. That's unlimited game review, unlimited puzzles, unlimited bots, unlimited lessons, and no ads. All at 50% off. Go to chess.com/students and get your discount today.
We're about to find out, honey. We just got started, so I'll let you know.
And the rebound to Richardson. Still an opportunity with a minute to play.
You know the rules, right?
Yep.
Okay. So we are playing with white pieces, and we start the game with e4. Yeah. Why do we make this move? We are occupying the center, but we are also taking an eye on the d5 square. Yeah. So usually when you put the pieces towards the center, it cannot be bad. Many people will play the same, e7, e5. Now you're developing the knight, because in the beginning it's very important to develop the pieces to castle, to fight for the center. So with this move you are threatening to take on e5. So if your opponent is not careful, and sometimes you may see that somebody plays something like, for example, b6, it's a really bad move because you can already take the pawn. But quite often your opponents will see that the pawn is hanging, and they will try to protect it by developing their own pieces. So knight c6 is a very common move. And now we develop our next piece. It's the bishop. So we move the bishop to c4. Again, it's towards the center. We are taking an eye on this pawn, and we don't allow black to occupy the center. For example, now d5 is not possible, because you take with the bishop or with the pawn, and black cannot recapture because you have the protection. And now you may only remember one move more. If black is developing another knight towards the center, you have this idea of playing knight to g5, attacking this pawn. And your opponent will already be a bit shocked, because it's not so easy to defend it. In case your opponent will develop the bishop, yeah, also looks very normal, then we can think about fighting for the center with the moves like c3 followed by d4. So that was the Italian B.
Your brain is a supercomputer capable of millions and millions of complex calculations and decisions. But your brain needs exercise, practice to keep it sharp and incisive. Chess puzzles are a great way to work out your brain. Daily puzzle solving makes your mind fit, building pattern recognition, critical thinking, and memory. Doing puzzles every day makes your mind fit, helping you build creativity, problem solving, and memory skills. Puzzles on Chess.com feature hundreds of thousands of original, beautiful problems tailored to your level. Whether you've never played before or you're a veteran, whatever level you're at, Chess.com's coach will help explain both the puzzle and the solution so you learn as you go. Most importantly, Chess.com puzzles are fun. Find interesting, beautiful solutions while building streaks, leveling up, and competing with friends. Try puzzles today on Chess.com and give your brain the exercise it's craving.
Welcome back to the 2025 ChessKid Youth Championship. 83% of you think that we're going to see an all-GM final. You were almost wrong there, but Yagiz even the score. Now it's looking like that's still very much a possibility, but a lot of chess left to decide whether or not 83% of you are correct, or if you 17% contrarians get to beat your chest and announce in the chat that you were, in fact, the prognosticator of prognosticators. I am Funmaster Mike. I'm here with Arturs Nixons of Latvia, and we are bringing to you all of the action. We have an American, an Argentinian, a Frenchman, and a Turkishman playing Arturs. Pretty exciting stuff in the opening games.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we have to thank to that also to Fausti, because after yesterday's crazy performance by Yesh, I mean, in the pool matches, it felt that he is definitely a very clear favorite. But no, Fausti says, wait just a second, I still have something to say in this matter. And he played this absolutely brilliant game with the black color. We didn't really get a chance to follow the second game too much. There was a crazy time scramble. Yesh managed to equalize the score, but this match is still for anyone to take.
Yep, there we go. The games are about to start. And in fact, they have started. Fausti has that IM moniker behind his head, but he's 2465 FIDE. He might need to go ahead and pre-order the GM1. Here we go. No B3s, Arturs. They're disappointing us, but I see actually a lot of just sort of like symmetry on the left side of the board, a little bit more action on the right side of the board.
The position is almost symmetrical, as you can see. Both players have played from the white's perspective bishop g5, knight on f3, so there's definitely some similarity to that. Now, I think that, again, both players from the white's perspective, they're aiming for a simpler game. So here, Yej on the left side, he is playing I think it was the Trumpovsky, but now it's going to transpose to some ideas of the London. So you're thinking about getting the queen on e2, knight e5, f4, stonewall from the white's perspective. And guess what? Somehow it's going to result with an attack. In the meantime, Andy, on the right side against Marco Materia, he has something positional on knight g4 here. Immediately, the Frenchman is asking the American big questions. Where exactly, sir, are you going to place your queen?
Yeah, and she's almost trapped after queen f4. Luckily, bishop e5 is not playable because the knight on f3. And pawn e5, the queen can hide on g3, but the queen heads for a little bit more open ocean, shall we say, by going to d3, not getting buried on the king side there. But she's going to get hit again when the rook comes to d8, and there will be a rook coming to d8. She's going to have to keep on moving, and this is why bringing the queen out early is sometimes a little bit of an issue. She's not going to get lost, but she's going to have to lose a couple of tempos saving herself.
This is also a must-win situation for Materia because he's trailing behind 0-2, so he needs desperately the victory here. Probably he's not thinking about this right now, but there's no way for him to step back. No time to use any caution. Rook d8, queen c2. Now the white queen is back to the safety, so the position remains level, even though black seemingly has won quite a few tempos to harass the white queen.
Yeah, now Marco really wants to play a rook takes d2 idea. He wants to distract the knight on f3 because there's a mate on h2, but the knight on d2 was actually being guarded plenty of time. So I was trying to make a way for black to play h6 and distract the bishop, but the tactics don't quite work here. And h3, I think that's safety first. Let's get that knight out of there. In ChessKid land, in my videos, I talk about when my little sister was in my bedroom growing up, even if she wasn't messing with my toys, I kicked her out of there. And an h3 kicks the knight out of there. We call that the no parking sign. Safety first.
Indeed. So Andy appears to have everything under control. I really like his position, so he controls the action, and unless he's going to blunder something heavily, let's focus maybe then on Yez's game on the left side, because he got his dream position from the Trumpovsky, London, whatever. He did play this f4 idea, the so-called stonewall from the white's perspective. And typically in the stonewall, the one who sets it up has the problem with the dark square bishop, but Yez already solved the problem ages ago. He played bishop g5, traded it, and now all he needs to do is throw every single piece he has at a king side. Rook f3, g4, g5, rook h3, queen h5. This position is so easy to play, Mike.
Yeah, in fact, I know this position because when I used to play on a physical Excalibur computer, for anybody who played chess in the late 80s, you could always play the Stonewall and beat this computer. And it's like a ready-made attack, as you said, Arturs. It's like an attack in a box. You just follow the recipe. And it's so easy to play. And you pointed out the major positional thing that caught my eye, too. The one problem is that dark squared bishop. It's been solved. So black needs to actually go a little bit crazier, because if you just wait around, you've got a hook pawn on h6 is going to be targeted. If you ever take the knight, the f pawn will take usually and open up the f file for the rooks, for the other rook to come over. So I don't like white's chances at all. Black's chances.
Right, indeed. So here, Faustino made a very nice move, knight f6. I think he needs to somehow close this bishop on c2. So I think what he's planning here to play like knight e4, trade a couple of times on e4, d takes on e4, but still, it doesn't really solve the problem of the knight on e5. So I think here what the young Turkish player is going to do, if his attack is somehow going to fail, possibly we are going to get a positional struggle where he has the knight on e5, and this knight in a time scramble tends to be very tricky. So queen e1, I actually think this rook g3 was a bit premature move. He should have included g4, g5 at some point, but of course this is a blitz game after all.
Yeah, this actually reminds me a little bit of a game from the Carlsen Anand World Championship in 2014, where Carlsen, I believe, was white and doing the attacking, but Anand had so much pressure on the queen side, Anand almost held the game due to the counterattack. So instead of going for a counterattack, Fausti's basically playing for a square. And the annoying thing for white is that there's always going to be something on the e4 square. I guess you could take twice and play the knight versus bishop position. But I imagine if you take once, black will take back with the pawn, actually, and not play knight versus bishop, because that knight is so strong on the e5 square. That's just a guess, though.
This makes actually perfect sense. And now I think Yesh has to figure out, does he take with the knight, take with the bishop? Because like you said already, Mike, possibly black would play d takes on e4. And maybe here he's even thinking about some g4 ideas. But the question is, what happens after f6? All right, so here white plays knight g4 immediately, tries to sacrifice something on h6. Knight f5 was a very nice defensive move. And just like that, black already is slightly better.
I'm super impressed at how calmly Fausti has rebuffed the would-be attack that we were expecting. He's actually taken over the position. He did, in fact, play d takes e4 because this concept of good knight versus bad bishop, I had to lose many chess games growing up before I truly understood that sometimes the knight just makes the bishop look very silly. So, but yeah, there's still some pieces that are going to come to the king side. Now, g4 did happen a little bit later than you would have wanted. I expect king h1, rook g1, and sort of an all-out idea here. Let's see if Yesh really goes for it.
And he does, and that's why Faustic here immediately plays bishop d5, target the pawn on b2, and Erdomas says, I have no time to protect the pawn, let me just go all in for the initiative. He knows what he's doing. Knight g4, rook h3, rook g1, every single white piece is attacking the black king, so here Faustic is going to have to be very careful. Already king h7 was the only move to keep the position alive.
Impressive that he found it with 4.7 seconds left. I can report on the other board, Andy is totally winning and will probably clinch, but this is so exciting. Let's go to the bird's eye because we might see a clinch on the right. Somehow Marco has to win this position, but over on the left, Fausti has to hold this with 0.1 seconds. It's showing timeout, and I think he ran out of time. You see the gesticulation from there, disappointed. But how do you hold this position with no time in your clock? Every single white piece is aiming at you, even the bishop on c2. So Yej takes a 2-1 lead. Over on the right, Marco needs to win same color bishops, but oh man, how do you win this? It's anybody's guess.
That's mission impossible here for the Frenchman because I don't see a single idea how he can try to win this. And I think here it's Andy who is toying with some ideas to play for the win. He could always play c4 to fix the pawn on c5, so he is maybe playing for some ELO points on Chess.com. You never know. So he probably feels that there's no need for him to just to play safe, but we're going to see.
That's right. The games are rated. He did play c4 to fix the black pawn on c5, which is a great idea in same-colored bishop endgames. Of course, you're probably thinking, hey, wasn't the 2024 World Championship decided by a same-colored bishop ending? Yeah, but one player had one more pawn than the other player. So I don't see any Gukesh heroics here from Marco. Teenagers can't win them all. And yeah, white looks to be totally winning. Which pawn will white go for? I imagine the g5 pawn.
And the bishop is trapped. The bishop is trapped. Look at that. King g6 just traps the bishop. First bishop takes on c5. Incredible accuracy here by Woodward. So he's simply going to clinch the mat by not just drawing it, but by winning it. And he does it.
Yeah. And you could even say the bishop was trapped in the Gukesh Ding game as well. But more importantly, for what we're doing here today, Andy wins 3-0. They will not play a fourth game. So Andy gets a little bit of a longer break over the French Blitz champion. He wins 3-0 against Marco Materia. Marco, great performance yesterday to qualify today. But when you're playing the Chess.com puzzle-solving champion, you're just playing such a speed demon. So congratulations to Andy. He will advance. By the way, he lost last year's semifinal, so he's now gotten further than last year. He played Yej last year in the semifinal. Will he get a rematch? We don't know, but Yej is up 2-1. So pretty simple coming up here. We have one game. Fausti has to win it to extend the match. Can't get more clear than that.
I think actually Andy had the look that he was going to challenge somebody for the bullet game because there's no way he's going to rest before the final. So why don't you just play some sparring bullet games, rated or unrated? You never really know. So let's just stay in shape.
That'd be hysterical. I could throw my producer a curveball and say, can we put Andy's practice bullet games up on the bird's eye? That's a joke. We're not going to do that. But yeah, you're right. I bet you Andy will fill the time with more chess. So, all right, the man on the left, Fausti, he needs to win. Buena suerte to all my Spanish-speaking viewers that are rooting for our boy from Argentina. So the Messi of chess versus the new young Turk, the new hope of the Turkish people. And here we go. It is another closed pawn structure. F4, we have ourselves a French and archers. What do you know about this system?
Not really much. It resembles either the French or the Cara, except instead of the pawn on c6, there's a knight on c6, and these advanced variations are getting very, very popular. I'm a bit surprised that in the French, e4, e5 is not that popular, but in the Cara, it is. So here, I think that Black has definitely also some chances for a counterattack at a king side. And this is why Faustino plays a4 to immediately tell Black that if you want to cast the long side, there's going to be consequences.
We have somebody in the chat, a fan of Yej, saying that Yej will cook. Now, because I've been hanging out with Carissa Yip lately, I can tell all the non-Gen Z listeners out there, cook means to do well. Okay, so thank you, Carissa Yip, for the millennial and Gen Z slang. But we've got some Yej fans in the chat. Everything's getting locked up, though. Not usually what you want to see in a must-win situation, but there's still some dynamism because white can play for c4, white can play h3, g4. So things are locked up now, but they're not going to be forever. And there is a backward e-pawn that can happen whenever white chooses to play e takes f6.
Knight c2 is played. Also, this bishop on c1 seemingly looks like a terrible bishop. Let me count the pawns. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pawns are placed on the color of the bishop. But I mean, white does enjoy some space advantage here, so it doesn't really mean a thing. And even the worst bishop, as Gary Kasparov once said, is better than the best knight. I suppose we are going to see short castle here played by Erdomos. He is bringing the king to the safety of the king side, but is it safe? The pawn stands on h5 after all.
Well, I just watched Marathon Man recently. Is it safe? Yes, it's very safe, to quote Justin Hoffman there. But it's actually not safe. If anybody knows that scene, I'm not going to recreate it for you because it's a little bit graphic. But yeah, somebody in the chat is saying, what about Yej in the under 13? He won both sections last year. Don't forget, last year, he won the under 13 and the under 16. Unfortunately for him, he actually turned 13 this year and was not eligible anymore. I got his age wrong earlier in the broadcast. He turned 14 5 days ago, not 13. So he's only eligible to defend his title in this. Much like his parents, he's getting older, even though parents don't want him to. We don't want him to either, but that's why he's playing in only the under 16. Okay, we have a capture. How does white take back here, Archers? What's your guess?
So here, there's already the answer. The young Argentinian decided to take with rook. I think his idea was to exploit the weakening of the e5 square. Also, the pawn on e6 is the target. Bar disagrees. But also for Fausti, the plan is pretty simple. He wants to play like bishop d2, rook e2. Possibly this knight from f3 is going to go knight e1, knight f3. But watch out for h4 because black is up to no good. He wants to take on g3 and possibly even explode the position with g5. And the question is, whose king is going to be weaker, whites or blacks?
Yeah, I love your analysis there. I think black would be wise to play rook on a to e8 first to both support the pawn and also to come up to e7 and then g7. So when all those files get open on the king side, you're going to want all of your rooks to take advantage of that. So we'll see how much he prepares this idea. But I do think that queenside rook needs to get in the game. Here's another way. He could just double rooks and just play normally. But yeah, g5 is a fascinating idea that I think both players are going to have to examine because of the weakness of, say, the g3 pawn for white if the capture happens.
Yeah, so here I think Fausti did make a mistake. I'm going to roll back very quickly, just show this moment here after f takes on e5. I think he should have played either f takes on e5, d takes on e5, control the g5 square. But again, when you're playing blitz game, it's really so difficult to validate the consequences. And right now, I think Fausti is looking back at this position and thinking, yeah, I mean, I probably made the wrong choice. But again, no time to really think about your choices. Need to concentrate what's ahead of you.
Yeah, and it's so tempting to capture with a minor piece to keep the e6 pawn backward. Like as a human instinct, you need to win. You don't want pawns locking up when you're in a must-win situation. So I certainly understand. But the black pieces are enjoying a little bit more freedom right now. And black is even thinking about playing e5 himself. Can't play it yet because d5 is hanging with check. But in some variations, white would like to unbackwardize his pawn.
Yeah, maybe indeed he can play something like c6 to protect the pawn on d5, then play e5. I think also Yeshke could be improving his pieces. I'm thinking almost like queen f7, queen f5, knight g4. But I would be also very tempted about this g5 push. I mean, this is something, Mike, I just cannot forget. I mean, I want to play g5, I want to attack the white king, but the question is, should I do it? Queen f7, by the way, is played.
Yeah, I was also thinking for black about playing knight f5, g4, and going right back to h6 and just tricking those pawns into coming closer. I guess in ChessKid we might call them here kitty kitty, where you want your opponent's pawns closer to you because you're going to end up capturing them. But black is just playing a little bit stationary here. And, black is going to toggle, of course. White is the one that has to come up with new moves because white is in a must-win situation.
All right, rook e3 marks as a mistake. Queen g6, a powerful move. I mean, knight f5 is a monstrous threat, not only hitting the rook at e3, the pawn on g3 here. The question is, can here the young Turkish superstar do this? Rook f6 calms the cock where he just defends the pawn on e6. Knight f5 is a massive threat. And actually, if you saw earlier, Black was happy to repeat the position. Of course, he is happy because he's leading in the match 2-1. And it's Fausti who has to play the position for the win, even though he is worse.
I don't know what you do as white. I mean, I literally don't know. You want your bishop on d2 to go back to e1. This reminds me of the stonewall we just looked at, except that there is a dark squared bishop on the board, and you can see the problem. White is defending without one of his pieces. g3 is so weak, the king doesn't make a good defender, so the queen drops back. That just gives the g-pawn. Maybe you can grab the e-pawn, but your knight is so bad, and yeah, just takes. You don't even really have to calculate anything here, and it's an extra pawn. Things are looking very good for Yej. He only needs to draw this position. I would take the queen without thinking, by the way. That's just how I play chess. But anyway, queen back because kids are fearless.
Look at that. He rejects the queen threat and he says, I want more. I am not satisfied with just a queen threat. I want more. And here after rook f1, there already should be somewhere to kill him below. Rook takes on f1, knight takes on f1. Some sort of bishop h2. Oh, look at that. That's a queen. No, it's not a queen check. It's a mate on the board.
Mate. It's mate. Rook takes f1. Yeah, he finds a mate. Wait, he's slow rolling it here, as we say in poker.
That's a slow roll. What's he doing?
Oh, Yej wanted to make sure. I think we're actually broadcasting this in Turkish. He wanted to give the Turkish announcers, a full 10 seconds to enjoy. The Arabian Mate. The Arabian Mate by Yej. Fantastic stuff. So Yej wins 3-1. He only needed to draw. He refused the queen trade like 4 times, and he wins with style. Wow. So the 83% of you that went chalk and voted for a 2GM finals, you got it. Because Yej will face Andy. We have the youngest 2600 in the world of chess against the Chess.com puzzle champion. That is the final that, I'll be honest with you, I kind of wanted to see too. They played last year. I believe Yej won 3-1 in the semifinals. I'll check that. Arturs, what are you thinking about this final?
Yeah, we are going to talk about it because these guys, they can't have enough of each other because before the day, I checked what's their score. Have they ever played against each other before the final? Not only the last year's edition of ChessKid Championship, where they played in the semifinal, Yej was victorious 3-1, but on Chess.com, within the last year, they have played 294 games. Let that sink in. 294. And in total from these games, they have played about 20 blitz games. And if my calculation is correct, and pardon me, I wasn't really checking it so carefully, Erdomos is a small favorite because he has won more games, 12-8, if my calculation was correct. Everything else is bullet or hyperbullet. These guys played 10-second chess games.
Fantastic stuff. They played more than Kasparov and Karpov. They're going to play 6 games when we come back from the break. I can't wait. We've got Yej Erdemus and Andy Woodward in the final. But before we go to break, let me tell you that you should be getting hype. We got a mention there from Arturs about Bullet, but we're going to go a little bit faster and go for Hyper Bullet. That is the next event in the Chess.com Community Championship. With just 30 seconds on your clock, will you be crowned the game's fastest pawn slinger? Learn more and register for the Hyper Bullet Community Championship from June 12th to 13th at go.chess.com/hyper, or you can use !hyper in the chat if you are a Gen Xer or Millennial and you like your chat commands. All right, back from the break. The finals are coming up. Don't go anywhere. We'll see you in only a few short minutes.
Chess, and I'm about to film the most extreme chess challenge I've ever done. I'm going to be playing 4 games at the same time, and every kid is going to be armed with a giant super soaker gun. Let's see if I can win all 4 games. Okay. Why did I sign up for this? This is like extreme sports. Oh my gosh, I can't even see. These 2 are like really brutal. I feel like I haven't even been attacked on that side. Why are you all defending your kings? Like, just let me win. Okay, all right, that's fair. I'm gonna be so excited when your water guns run out of water. I'm just gonna like... Oh yeah, yeah. How about you all do it at the same time for like 30 seconds straight? Hey. It's just... Yay! I play this. It is mean, yes. How does she still have water? Oh my god. Checkmate. Good game. For some reason? Well, that means he probably enjoys chess, right? For some reason. No? That was so fast. I'm down to 2 boards. Ah! How do you still have so much water? Okay, no problem. Okay, yay. Ah, I had a feeling she was lying. That's checkmate. Good game. I can sacrifice my queen. I'm just saying, you're so mean. Ah! Good game. You lasted the longest. I'm trying to shake your hand. Woo! That was very fun. Thank you for volunteering. You know, actually, I feel like getting revenge.
Throughout the year, we have this ongoing collaboration with RLs. We host workshops, tournaments for the people who are experiencing homelessness. And to be honest, it's just amazing to see the joy and the confidence that chess brings to their life.
El ajedrez lo que tiene es una posibilidad de hacer conocimientos o de establecer relaciones intergeneracionales. Puedes jugar hombres, mujeres, niños, niñas, y entonces esto es muy interesante. Y también de alguna manera pues iguala a todo tipo de persona, ¿no? Dentro del programa ocupacional intentamos generar actividades que tengan relación con las competencias o con los gustos de las personas. Aquellas actividades que de alguna manera les motiven, les sean significativas. Y hay muchas personas a las que les gusta el ajedrez.
Me relaja mucho, porque termino una partida y después una tranquilidad maravillosa. Me olvido de todo.
Hemos organizado unas partidas y han venido 3 personas a jugar partidas simultáneas que han atraído a mucha gente.
When we see a grandmaster with a first-time player, and when we see people who don't even play but are so interested by the game and, you know, sharing and watching, that's the real magic of this initiative.
I have a rating of over 1,000. I think this event organized by Chess.com and the Grandmaster Maurice Ashley was just a great experience for me to come here. I got absolutely destroyed, but it was at least fun participating. And I just think it's a great opportunity to just unite with other people that can play chess, and I'm just happy to be here.
It was fantastic to be able to play out in open air in Barcelona. A lot of great players. I had some tough games. I was a little slow, but it's what it was. I didn't want to lose any games. I had some good positions, but they played me tough. So it was quite a bit of fun.
Las personas que viven en la calle y que están vulneradas son personas de ciudadanos de primera como todas las personas. Y entonces todas las actividades que puedan hacer visible esta igualdad, esta equiparación con el resto de ciudadanos es interesante.
It's amazing to be a part of a game like chess and then to see the magical power that it has, that it can transform lives. We see it happen all over the world, and to see it happening here in Barcelona, it's such a great cause with homeless people who may have life a little bit tough but get a chance to take a little bit of break and play some chess. I think it's a wonderful initiative that Chess.com has started.
It's not just chess. It's about community, it's about dignity, it's about joy in action. So yeah, chess is for everyone. When we say that, we really mean it.
Welcome back, everybody. If you're wanting to know who's the best under 16-year-old in the world, you're about to find out, because this is the conclusion of the 2025 ChessKid Youth Championship. I am Funmaster Mike, as the kids call me. Grandmaster Arturs Nixons is the man of the hour, because he's helping me work our way through all of this fantastic Blitz chess match. And we got the final that 83% of you predicted. Arturs, who are we going to see play 6 games coming up?
Yeah, so that's Yagiz Domos against Andy Woodward, two of the big heavyweights of the pool matches. Yesterday, both of them won their respective tournaments. Andy had 9.5 out of 10. Yagiz got 8.5 out of 10. He lost the final game already, having secured his ticket to the semifinals. And I was very, very impressed also by the mental resilience of the young Turkish man, because he lost the very first game in a crushing fashion against Faustino, and then he came back roaring like a lion, 3 victories in a row, 3 against 1, once again confirming that he deserves to be in the final, and it's going to be a fun one.
Yeah, Yagiz completely steamrolled the competition last year. And I will say this year, even though he played Andy in the semifinals last year and he won 3-1, Yagiz got better than last year, obviously, as all kids do. But I think Andy made a bigger jump in his own personal chess, closing the gap a little bit. I think Andy's a little bit more active on online chess as well. And as you mentioned, Andy went 9.5 yesterday, 3-0 today. That means that Andy is 12.5 out of 13 so far this year. Just let that sink in for a second. Nobody has beaten Andy Woodward in the ChessKid Youth Championship this year. Yagiz suffered 1 loss yesterday in the final round, and the opening round today. That means Yagiz actually lost 2 games in a row if you want to do a carryover from Saturday and Sunday. Of course, he still got a fantastic score, but it's not Andy Woodward level. So here we go. The world's youngest, we see him on the screen, world's youngest 2600 on the right. He's got the gamer chair, I should point out, and the Chess.com puzzle champion on the left, and a fantastic checkmate by that man, Yagiz, to get into the finals. That was very cool. Queen sack for Arabian mate. Something tells me that our algorithm that harvests puzzles for the Chess.com puzzles will harvest that position. That actually is how we harvest puzzles, by the way, from real user games.
Yeah.
Arturs, do you think that Andy played some bullet and blitz games during the interregnum there before the finals?
Absolutely. I wouldn't be really surprised. I don't think he was relaxing. He definitely was warming up with something. And by the way, speaking about the ratings on Chess.com, I do believe that Andy's rating is a bit higher. So technically on paper, or maybe not on paper, but online, he is a smaller rating favorite. But of course, everything is going to really depend on who is having the quicker hands at this particular moment. And speaking about the previous games, they have definitely played these almost 300 games previously during the past year. They are also met in real life. I checked it, Mike. They have played together with Marco Materia in Jeddah International Chess Festival, the Young Masters, back in January of 2024. So they have played against each other over the board as well, and Yagiz was victorious. Not really that important, but a small tidbit that could be nice to know.
Here we go. Game 1 of 6. Yagiz takes black. He pushes his B pawn and plays a Queen's Indian type setup. Yagiz is 14. Andy is 15. Here we go in game 1, and we have a pretty typical structure. Finally, we have a game that could possibly be seen at the Grandmaster level, because they are both Grandmasters. By the way, neither of them are strangers to the stress of competition. Andy played a finals against Ray Robson on the Chess.com Puzzle Championship. Yagiz played for country. He's already on the Turkish national team. And this is a known pawn sack. Arturs, can you help our viewers understand why White is able to sack this pawn?
Yeah, this is a pretty modern stuff, so let me just go back a bit while the players are still in the opening phase. This bishop a6 idea, it keeps coming and disappearing from time to time. It's pretty trendy stuff, hitting the pawn on c4. Queen c2, the idea is that now the queen is dislodged from protecting the d5 square. That's why black plays c5 immediately. And this d5 stuff, again, is very common. White sacrifices the pawn, tries to get some activity in return. I believe knight c6 is a bit more popular move instead of bishop e7. Anyway, now we are having to this typical position here where black has an extra pawn, but white enjoys some activity, and Stockfish, as usual, says somehow it fizzles out. But is it going to fizzle out? We are going to see.
Well, right now it's a pawn for a square, because white has control of d5. If black could get a pawn to d5 and fill in the square, then it would just be an extra pawn. Of course, black can't play that right now. His knight is hanging, but now it looks like he wants to play b5, kick the queen, and in a perfect world, play d5. Now, there's no way that white's going to allow that because white is well aware of the counterplay. So white now gets the pawn back, but at the cost of his very strong light-squared bishop. And that is something that we should remind viewers. Sometimes when you accept a gambit, the goal is not to keep the pawn. The goal is to give it back under favorable circumstances. And black did get the very strong bishop off the board.
Now, I seem to recall some things that Andy said in yesterday's interview, Mike. He said a couple of things. First things you ask him, what did he change from his last year's experience in the ChessKid Championship? He said, I start to play faster, and I think this is exactly what he's doing here. And the second thing is, he said, I try to play in the opening much faster, even though sometimes I'm not exactly sure what I'm doing. You know, and that's why I was looking at this position and wondering, is this the actual situation? Because bishop takes on c6, this choice to win back the pawn was played very quickly, and I thought, do you really want to do that? But okay, apparently Andy's happy with that.
That's a good callback, Archers, and you're exactly right. He did say he wanted to play faster. Now, in the under 13 ChessKid Youth Championship, I did the broadcast with Grandmaster Ben Feingold, and I proffered the idea we should install an eval bar that takes into account the clock situation. So, for example, in a 3+1 game, is a 1-pawn deficit worth 60 seconds? Like, I don't know what the calculation is, but it would be fascinating if our eval bar factored in when a player is up, let's say 30 seconds. We don't have that tech yet. I'm not even sure how we would do it. But anyway, that's a different story for a different day. What we see on the board here is a queenside advantage for black. Generally, the person with the queenside pawn majority has that very small sort of idea. If we get down with fewer pieces, I can make a pass pawn faster than you. But there's still plenty left on the chessboard here. I do like black's, I would say, very slight extra space, maybe.
Yeah, so I was wondering also about queen b7 ideas, try to harass, I don't know, the queenside pawns here. But I think it's safe to say, Mike, that here Yagiz has completely solved his opening problems, and actually his position does look a bit better because his pawns at the queenside, they're rolling forward. As you can see, both players have the pawn majority. Andy has on the king side, Yagiz has at the queen side. And the only difference here is that the black pawns, they are moving forward while whites are kind of stuck.
Okay, well, while the eval bar says small advantage for black, but also small time deficit for black, I would like to have the chat tell us who they think are going to win the finals. We do have a prediction poll in the chat, and I see a lot of you are already jumping on that. So not going to reveal any results yet, but go ahead and go and predict who's going to win. Now's a good time before somebody actually does win a game, and then, of course, you'll be influenced by early results.
Yeah, this knight g4 is the move that allowed Andy to immediately exploit the weakening of the d5 square. I'm not really sure this was such a good idea. But okay, what's done is done. As you can see, the players are approaching 1 minute mark, and Andy still has some lead on the clock, but not as much as he had before. Now, the big question is what happens after knight takes on e3. With what exactly does white recapture? He does it with the knight.
Yep. Black was actually facing an overworked queen there, so had to do something and decided to trade. Now we have the classic bishop versus knight. Now, if we just play chess based on axioms and not real chess moves, black has the bishop for the knight when there's pawns on both sides of the board, and black has the queenside majority. But of course, chess is played with real moves. But from a sort of pedagogical standpoint, we would say that black has most of the advantages in this position.
I'm going to pick white. Because, you know, I think this comes from my own experience. When you're playing the time scramble, you always want to have the knight. Because the knight is an unpredictable piece. In the time scramble, it always is eligible for some forks, unexpected moves. The bishop, not so much. And that's why here, by the way, also the bar is starting to shoot up in the sky in favor for white. There goes rook d6. And here Woodward is looking really great to take down the first game.
Yep, the knight is looking good, and suddenly there could be some threats against the black king, but the most salient part of this position for me is the 40-second advantage by Andy. That counts for quite a lot. Now, he eschews the queen trade, and actually, this is what maybe you should do when you're ahead on time, is keep the position complicated. Now, what's going on? Is there some sort of like back rank mate, knight takes h6 or something?
Yeah, knight h6, and immediately, of course, this is basically a level 1 puzzle rush here for Andy. He is our reigning champion of puzzle rush of 2025. For him, finding knight takes on h6 is a piece of cake. And this is why, ladies and gentlemen, you're doing the puzzles so that you can find the tactical solutions in real time.
Right, the rook on c8 is loose. Loose pieces drop off, and Archer showed us that there was a queen g4 check in case the knight was captured. So now it's just an extra pawn, but the threats to the king haven't gone away. There could be a rook d7 idea coming, a knight h6 idea. Only 3 pieces, but they're all converging on the same square suddenly.
And he takes it down.
There we go.
That was very, very nicely spotted here by Andy.
Yep, the only way to guard F7 would have left the back rank mortally weak, and well done. And you are exactly right, Archers. What won him that game was his pre-event strategy of playing faster, because it was totally equal, but he had a minute to play that position. Yej only had 15 seconds. Now, Yej is looking a lot more stoic. Let's see if we can get his reaction up here on the screen. Remember when he dropped game one in the semifinals, he was much more animated. Here, I think he kind of understood he got outplayed. It wasn't like a topsy-turvy game. He just kind of got outplayed in the final 7 moves of the game.
I think also Yej is not really thinking about what happened. He's simply thinking about his next choices. So he was perfectly ready that he might lose some games in this match. So I'm not even sure he considers himself a favorite here. So having a loss is completely understandable. So he decided to play e4. By the way, Mike, I want to make a huge shout out for a producer who wrote that Andy's a big fan of Mr. Beast. Very interesting moment to include it.
We're still trying to get Mr. Beast to work with us. Mr. Beast lives in Greenville, North Carolina, about 4 or 5 hours from my house. So maybe I'll just pop on over and see if he wants to, I don't know, maybe commentate with us sometime. All right, Andy has 13.5 out of 14 in ChessKid Youth Championship competition this year. That's pretty impressive. He lost 3-1 to Yej in last year's semifinals, but he already wins the opening game here. But he's got black now. Yej has the advantage of the white pieces and is playing a very modest setup. Is it a Moscow or a Rosalimo? I never remember the difference. Maybe Archers can tell us.
Yeah, I'm just, again, go back a bit. So this bishop b5, knight e7, this is pretty popular stuff. Short castle here, short castle a6, bishop e2, d3. Now, normally this makes almost no sense, and yet this is very trendy because white has a simple idea to go for a king set attack. c4, knight c3. At some point, the knight on f3, Mike is going to move away. I'm talking about most, like, I'm not really sure. Is it h3, knight h2? Again, there you go, f4, f5, or potentially even knight e1, f4. Not really sure what's going to happen, but this is how you play chess nowadays.
Yeah, and I think that white should just play any pragmatic setup because, guess what? The early storyline of this match is repeating. Andy's up 40 seconds in a position where I'm sure white has 3 or 4 totally reasonable moves that don't really differ that much in the evaluation. So let's keep an eye on that because it is becoming a little bit of a mini theme of this match so far.
It could also now transpose on the hedgehog because bishop f1, rook e1, bishop f1. I think this also is signaling that Yej wants to play d4, and Andy says, no, you're not going to do that. That's why I'm going to play knight e5. We're going to have something else. Look at that. Just like that, very quickly, the position transposes to something else, and Yej immediately says, I know what to do here. Bishop e3, a3, rook b1, b4. This is how these kids very quickly transpose to something else, and they're ready to play this position.
Thank you for that. And before the clocks get too low, let me announce the results of our poll by a very slim margin. 55% to 45% think that Andy is the favorite. I believe that poll was taken before, of course, the round 1 game, which would have influenced things a lot. But people are valuing Andy's online skills a little bit more than Yej's massive 2,600 plus FIDE classical rating. But it's not a very big margin. It's certainly a lot closer than that 83% that we saw that thought this match was going to take place in the first place.
Queen c2 marks as the mistake. I think the problem is b4 move. So after b4, white's knight doesn't really have any good squares. And if you take it. The question is, who is going to control these dark squares? I really love Yej's choice to play bishop c6 and b5. So he's essentially saying, I'm not going to wait for you to play b4. I want to play something at the queen side myself. And also note, if here the young Turkish player is going to get his knight from f6 to d4, I don't know how he plans to do that, but if he's going to do it, he's definitely going to take over the game. Knight g4 is on the board.
Yeah, that was the big question. Does the knight regroup or does it do something else? It could have gone back through the b8 square, which is a very like super weird Breyer type idea. Yeah, that would just take forever. And you don't really get 5 moves in a chess game. It would take the knight 4 turns and the bishop on c6 would have to move. So this is a more practical choice. Play knight to g4, see if you can get the bishops for yourself. And if you're white, do you allow it? No. Bishop back to c1. And now the knight's probably going to have to go back to f6 after the no parking sign h3.
Yeah, b4 is played on the board, and here Andy nicely controls all the squares. So look at this bishop on f1. It doesn't really do any good here. I think here Andy wants to play something like bishop g5, trade off the bishops. That's why here, of course, Yesh immediately plays bishop e2. He wants to trade off his poor bishop, and Andy retreats with the knight back to the safety. And I think he's clearly eyeing for his d4 square.
Well, now that everything is closing up on the queen side, there we go. The knight is going to go back through b8, and also f5 becomes an idea to free the light squared bishop. Of course, if you needed any reminder that knights sometimes have to go backward to go forward, don't forget Gukesh's fantastic win over Ding Liren in the World Championship, where the knight went back through the b1 square, or maybe it was a1. I think it was a1, yeah, which is a fantastic idea. Okay, anyway, back to chess. Sometimes you got to go backward to go forward. That's a life lesson and a chess lesson. Black does go for f5, and the pieces are forming on the king side there. Not a whole lot guarding the white king.
Yeah, queen g5, so black keeps pressing here. So Woodward is in charge of the position right now. The bar says black is slightly better, but I mean, it just feels that black is definitely the driving seat. He enjoys the initiative at the king side, and right now Yagiz is trying to hold on, not to blunder anything. Maybe sack the pawn on e4 if he has to, but make sure he is king in the safety. But look at the clock here, Mike. 25 seconds here. White's in trouble.
I love how black kept the tension, because first of all, white never wants to take and free the light squared bishop, but black was keeping open the option of either winning the e-pawn or playing f4, f3 in consecutive turns. So a great lesson on keeping the tension. White senses that f4, f3 could become a problem, goes ahead and plays f3 himself, but now it's just a very sad position for the white bishops. Okay, so knight back to f1, and the tension is still there, both literal and, I don't know, chessic tension, with e4 and f5 still aiming at each other.
Yeah, I mean, Yezh's position is becoming worse and worse. Every single pawn and almost every single piece is on the light square, so you could play like rook d1, rook b1, king h1, and basically you achieve that. In the meantime here, Woodward is trying to trade off his bad bishop, bishop g5, knight f4, and Yesh treats the knight on e4 as the piece he needs to eliminate. That's why he rejected the trade of the bishop. He wants to kill the knight, but watch out the clock, 2 seconds only. And he blunders a 4.
Yeah, and the f4 is coming, and that's why you keep the tension. You keep your opponent on his guessing, and when you've got 3 seconds left, in a way you are guessing at your moves, and the fork was an easy thing to miss, and it's looking very good. Andy's got 40 extra seconds, an extra bishop. What more does the Chess.com puzzle champion need? Now he gets practical. Now he trades pieces, unlike in his final round game against Fausti. He plays a little bit more practical here. So he could just play rook d4, double rooks. He's going to guard e5 first, of course. Queen f4.
Might be still some chances here. Yeah, there might be still some chances, Mike, because the position is still quite locked, and black is having the extra piece, but he still needs to show the technique. And also what's going to help Yesh here is that his position is very easy to play. Like, all he needs to do is build some kind of a fortress and pray that black doesn't really have an easy way to crash through. So he just can shuffle the pieces here and there, and it's Woodward who has to find ways to open up the position. There you go, g5, g4. g4, there you go. So here Yesh is locking the position away and throwing away the keys. But he blunders the pawn on b3.
It was almost a fortress. Magnus doesn't believe in them, and apparently Andy doesn't either. We're almost required by commentator contract to mention the Magnus fortress quote. I think you were being very optimistic for white there. I didn't see any kind of like long-term fortress, but you're right. A lot of, shall we say, difficulty was being put up by white until black finally broke through with the queen. And now the B pawn is probably going to break the back. But yeah, there is a possible counterplay here with a sack on g5 that black has to analyze now.
So here Woodward, of course, made sure that he's not blundering anything. That's a checkmate on the board. Rook. Oh, wait, there's no rook takes f3. That's a rook. That's a rook. And that's it. Woodward wins. What a performance in this second game. I was incredibly impressed how he slowly but carefully improved his position, Mike.
Wins as white, wins as black. He almost let out a wry smile there. Kind of surprising Yesh didn't go back to his b3 stuff, but I guess he figured that Andy would be ready for it, right? He had a whole night to prepare in case this matchup ended up happening. But a 2-0 lead. Now, last year, the finals were a best of 4. We heard from some of our viewers they wanted to see more chess, so it's a best of 6. And that fact alone still gives Yesh some hope. If it was best of 4, it would be really, really tough. And now he looks off away from the Turkish sun coming in through his window on the left side of his face. He looks off to his own right. But not a lot of time here. They're going to regroup and play game 3. 2-0 lead. 55% of you thought that Andy would be the favorite, and so far he's proving the majority of you right.
This is where your training kicks in. I mean, you have been training for moments like these, and you definitely cannot expect that every single match you're going to come out victorious. So that's why here I think Erdomos was trying to calm down, remember what his coach was telling him what to do in these situations, because still the match is not over. He trails by 2 points. All he needs is to score one victory. He is within the striking distance, and here we go. We have a classical Catalan on the board.
Yeah, and he's a guy who I think he takes the long view in chess a lot. And I want to tell a nice story while we've got a moment here. When Yej was creeping up in rating a couple of years ago, and he was getting close to GM level, I contacted the family, to see if there's something that ChessKid could do a story on him or whatever. And the family surprisingly told me that it wasn't his goal to become the youngest grandmaster of all time. He did not make a run at it like most kids that are 10, 11, 12 years old. And I thought that was like a very, very wholesome thing to do. So he keeps things in the long view. He's got the right perspective about life and chess. I've met him a few times in person. Very well put together young man, even though our languages aren't exactly aligned. I can't speak any Turkish. He's working on his own English. So just wanted to tell that nice story about Yej and his family.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah. So very, very amazing to hear. So he still made it like a very early age. I believe it was 13 something. He didn't break the record though. How do you even make a grandmaster at age 13? That is still beyond me. And this age just keeps decreasing all the time. I mean, we have Fausti, who possibly might become the youngest grandmaster in history of chess. And then there's Roman Shakjiyev already, who beat his record being the youngest IM in the world. It just keeps decreasing. These kids are becoming stronger and stronger basically by every year.
Yeah, Fausti IM at 10 years, 8 months. Roman Shagziev, 10 years, 3 months. He broke it by 5 months, which is a Bob Beeman-esque record break, if I can go back to the 68 Mexico City Olympics. See, guys, I don't just do baseball. I do long jump as well. Okay, but pawn to G4. Now, it looks like Black wants to move the knight back to G5 and invade those dark squares. That seems to be what was going for. But now the white knights enjoy some outposts as well.
I mean, this G5, G4 idea is very common, but I think that here Erdomo slightly underestimated the position. Maybe he's feeling a bit off after this terrible start in the match. So it does weaken the F4 square for no good reason. Right now, I think that Andy can just play knight E5 here, knight takes on E5, d takes on E5, focus on the queen side, and it seems that Black's initiative at the king side is basically non-existent, because how exactly do you plan to harass the white king when there's a monstrous knight on a4 stopping all of your efforts?
And you know what? With that 13.5 out of 14 results on this weekend, Andy has crossed 3,200 in Blitz. Hikaru, those are called footsteps, buddy. Andy is charging up, and at only, let's see, he's 15 years old. Now, some news for Yej. He's down 2-0, but you know who also is down 2-0? Alcaraz. He's playing the French Open final as we speak. I do not have one eye on the French Open final. But if I did, somebody's in my ear telling me that he's down 2 sets, and I do know that it's to Yannick Sinner who took out Djokovic. So anyway, let's keep it here, because I don't promise you, but I think our event will end before the French Open final.
Yeah, we'll see. But by the way, here speaking about Yej's idea, he decided to play knight f7 and try to get to the pawn on e5, and yet here something else happened. He traded pawns on b4 and played rook f7. That's a bit surprising move. Also notice that he has the same issue as in the last game, Mike. His bishop on c8. It's essentially the same terrible bishop he had in the previous game. It still hasn't joined the game, and by the looks of it, there's no perspective for it, because how on earth do you try to activate it? I don't really know.
That's a good callback. And in fact, this reminds me of a chess camp I used to teach with Grandmaster Simeon Palatnik, who called that bishop if you can borrow my Russian intonation here, a sick buffalo, a sick buffalo. Basically, if you have one sick buffalo, it ruins the whole herd. I don't know. I didn't grow up in the Soviet era. I guess they had buffaloes running around. But his point was that when you've got one bad piece, it ruins the whole position. And that is immediately what Artur's eye went to, was that bishop on c8. And yeah, it's similar to game 2. So I think it's worse than game 2, because in game 2, the bishop actually could defend like the g3 pawn. But here, I don't even know what it does. I guess it just guards b7, right? It just sits there being sick.
Yeah, but now Andy suddenly faces some serious questions, because how do you protect the pawn on e5 if you play like queen c3 or queen b2? The pawn on a4 is under attack, so do you sacrifice the pawn? So Woodward says, yeah, I gotta sacrifice it, so the pawn on a4 maybe is not really that important. The pawn on e5 is making this bishop on c8 look bad. There you go, c takes, knight c5 played very quickly, and now the bar says, just like that, black is looking pretty great.
Yeah, I don't know. Was there some sort of e6 tactic? I mean, I was looking for it, but I don't think e6 in the previous move did anything. So just putting the knight on the outpost makes sense. And remember, Andy's playing on the clock. So you see a reasonable move like putting a knight on a quasi outpost, and you do it, and you keep your time advantage. Now, the time advantage is a little bit more modest this game than in the first two games. Yej has either sped up or Andy has slowed down, but that's not going to be as big of a factor as we saw in the opening couplet of games.
This is Yej's chance. He picked up amazing move rook a5. So the idea is that I think Andy missed that you're going to play knight x on b7 because of rook b5. Also, do not forget that the pawn on e5 is hit. Queen d2 is played, hitting the rook on a5. How do you play here? Rook a7 protecting the pawn. I think Yej in a couple of seconds is simply going to pick up the second pawn from e5, and this bishop on c8, even though as bad as it is protecting some of the key squares in black's position.
Yeah, funny. The thick buffalo is staying at home guarding the fort, and you could tell that Andy is struggling to justify this pawn sacrifice because now he's burning clock, and Yej enjoys a 20-second advantage and a couple of extra pawns. E6 might be an intuitive desperation type move. We'll see if it has any merit, but the pawn was requiring too much of White's defenses, so White just pitches it down the board, hoping that maybe the bishop will take and the knight will be able to grab b7 and c6 will be weak. But Black is going to take it on his own terms. He waits to take it, and now it gets captured.
Bishop takes on e6. I think here Yej wants to keep the knight on g5 for some attacking purposes. Why not knight takes on e6? Queen b6, very nice intermezzo move. Hitting the rook at a7. Do you play rook a8? What do you do here? Now the position, the clock situation is leveling. Both players are down to the last seconds. Everything can happen here.
Yeah, the base pawn is captured, which means c6 is captured, which means d5 is weak. It's the definition of a pawn chain going down. Now White is back and forth because he did crash through on those queenside pawns, and some big problems for Black. If somehow Andy can finish this off with 4 seconds left, he would be 3-0 in the finals. It'd be as good a start as you could possibly get. Let's see if he's able to do it. 2 seconds left, though. He's got to get moving.
This is crazy time scramble. I think any of the players can take this down. Also, if Black gets to activate his bishop on e4 and f3, it's going to be all about the weakened light squares. Watch out for the back rank check. Knight f4, rook c1 check. There's going to be something here. Knight f3, bishop e4. This could be the victory here for Yej. Knight e6 is necessary, but can you play knight e6? Knight e6 is a mate on the board. He didn't find it. Oh my goodness.
Wow, yes. The bishop was pinned. He missed mate in one. But he still gets it, and funnily enough, it was another Arabian mate type position. That's become his calling card. That game meant so much for the match. Instead of going down 3-0 and being virtually out of it, he crawls back to 2-1. And does he have more whites remaining than blacks? I think he does. Yeah, he just played black. So actually, he's almost like holding serve now, as strange as it sounds. And that was the first loss that Andy Woodward has suffered at the ChessKid Youth Championship this year. Wow. It is 2-1. It is a 6-game final, which means we have got 3 games remaining, and we have ourselves a match, Archers.
Yeah, I mean, looking at Anders' expression is like, look at what I did. Look at this was pretty funny stuff. I mean, I was completely controlling things, then I was dead lost, then I blundered mate in one. Okay, I lost it, so this means a fun matches ahead. So it's also pretty great to see some good spirits from the young American.
That's right. This is like Borg McEnroe, where like every point was set point back in the 80 Wimbledon finals. So I might go peek at the French Open finals, but only for a second. Our break is going to be very short. It is our one and only break of the finals. So when we come back, we will see if Yej is able to complete the comeback. I don't know how Carlos Alcaraz is doing. Maybe he's doing the same, but don't go anywhere. The ChessKid Youth Championship Under 16 finals will happen after this short break. Well, it's time. Fun Master Mike is here for the worldwide premiere of Sour Chess. And my opponent today is going to be Inya. Inya, how are you?
I'm good.
You ready to eat some sour stuff?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you like sour stuff?
No, I don't.
When you capture a piece, you get to make your opponent eat something sour. We have a whole range, and we're going to get to that. All right, are you ready, Inya?
Yeah.
All right, well, good luck. All right, let's get some Sour Chess on. we're gonna save the Japanese umabashi for the victor. Inya, where are we going first? Okay, we're gonna go for the toxic waste. All right, so toxic waste, Funmaster Mike is gonna dig in. It could be like a watermelon type color. Let's see. Okay, I think you have to get past the first part. It's definitely getting worse. I think we're gonna continue the game with this in my mouth. It'll take a while. Okay, here we go. Guess what? What? You're not done yet, my little lady. This could be worse because, okay, that smell, if it's soft, I'm not sure if it's soft. But if it is, you can like bite like a half of it or a quarter of it. Is it soft? Okay, it is soft. Let's see how this goes. Okay, her lips are blue. And pickles aren't even blue. Yeah, okay, I don't know who your dentist is, but I think he's gonna stay in business after this. It'd be funny if I couldn't get the jar open, right? This looks terrible. Your favorite one. You do not have to eat the whole thing, but you have to take a bite that shows me that you've chewed some. Umabashi. I didn't know this word existed until we started planning this video.
This looks really bad.
Just pinch off. I have no idea what it looks like. It was a plum, okay? It looked like a real piece of fruit. Yeah, it's hard to show. We'll show the camera. It's gelatinous and it's probably terrible. All right, let's see what we got. This is the conclusion. Is it terrible?
It's terrible, yeah.
Is it worse than the pickle?
Yeah.
Really? I have to say, thank you, Inya. You're a good sport. You are part of history. This is the first ever game of Sour Chess.
Join the community club on Chess.com and participate in amazing community events every week. On Mondays, challenge yourself with incredible openings in Opening Roulette. Don't miss on Title Tuesday every week right after Title Tuesday. On Wednesday, join Arena Kings and compete against a lineup of legendary creators. On Fridays, try the all-new Community Freestyle Fridays and throw opening theory out the window. And finally, round out the week by showing off your speed in the Community Bullet Brawl. Win prizes, battle legends, and challenge yourself. Play in the community tournaments every week on Chess.com.
This is the 1 hour chess lesson you could take to make sure that you have all the starting tips, strategies, and basic understanding to really be ready. By owning the D file, White can do anything that he or she wants. If you don't understand what to do here, you might move the queen to safety on C6 and immediately lose the first lady to bishop to B5. King on the 6th, pawn on the 5th is a winning king and pawn ending where no matter what black does, we are going to be able to bring a new queen to the board. You can also skip the parts that maybe you already know how to move the pieces or the language and jump in at a level that's appropriate to you. The fastest, easiest way to improve your chess is now the most fun way to improve your chess. Chess.com's brand new puzzles now have loads of exciting features to make solving a joy. Earn points and race your friends across puzzle tiers from wood to bronze, all the way to legend. Rack up bonuses for streaks, for speed, for accuracy, for daily solving, difficulty, and more. And now, you can get feedback from Coach while solving puzzles. Coach lets you know what each puzzle's goal is and why a move doesn't actually work. And, as always, puzzles will be selected just for your level from our database of hundreds of thousands of high-quality, beautiful, brilliant, and instructive puzzles. So what are you waiting for? Try puzzles today on web, Android, or iOS, and have a blast leveling up your chess.
Welcome back, everybody. This is it. We are here. This is happening. It's the finals of the 2025 ChessKid Youth Championship. We've gone back from break. It is a 2-1 lead for the American Andy Woodward, but Yej won that last game to basically keep realistic hopes alive. Will he be able to complete the comeback, or will Andy sour the comeback attempt? You saw me play sour chess during the break, by the way. We'll see if that's happening. Now, Arturs, I think Yej is actually trying to fulfill his Chess.com moniker. Why don't you tell everybody what his account is and how that pertains to this match?
I mean, actually, we have to thank for that for Twitch username Pablo Kelly 1, because he wrote in the chat, "Legend is back, needs to be back." So that's a very, very nice reference to the username of Yej, because this is essentially his username on Chess.com. He is attempting to make a comeback. This last game was so critical for the young Turkish player, and now the game is about to start, and he is going to be looking for ways to equalize the score. Open Sicilian, there you go. What, G6?
There we go. Yeah, can you just take the knight? I mean, is it a pre-move that he played G6 or something?
I'm not sure I even have ever seen this line. I think that after bishop g5, let me roll back a bit. So after bishop g5, as far as I know, the main move is something like e6. There's a rare move, bishop d7. Can you here play the dragon with g6, bishop g7? But okay, I mean, maybe it's completely playable. And this immediately ignites the action, because Yej says, I'm going to castle the queen side. Indy says, I'm okay at the king side. There you go. This officially, Mike, is a race. Who's going to be faster?
Well, I think when you play g6, if you're white, you have to take the knight. Otherwise, it could be a dragon where your bishop's on g5 and not on e3, supporting your center. So Black knew that he not only was inducing this, but almost forcing this line. And I think it's a very, I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for? It's a very imbalanced position that you wouldn't normally see a leader go for when you've got a 2-1 lead. But yeah, everything is aiming at the white king, and I don't know what variation of the dragon it is, but it's almost like the one-eyed dragon. I don't know. I'm just making up words here. But right now, the bishops are aiming at the white king. The c file is open. None of the white pawns have advanced so far. So, but might cost you a pawn. Your d6 pawn does not look long for this world.
Yeah, I don't think that here Yej is looking for the pawn on d6, because this is simply going to accelerate Black's initiative, like queen d6, queen a5, so he's going to try h4 himself. I was also looking at the move knight f4 here, thinking about capturing the bishop on e6 or potentially anchoring the knight on d5. So after a minute of thought, h4 was played, and I also do believe this is still a theoretical discussion, at least until the move h4.
Okay, well, in the regular dragon, h4 is sometimes answered by h5, but that was not played here because maybe f4, f5 would come and you would really wreck the king side really quickly. So queen b6, and very good point that you pointed out. I get a little pawn hungry, but you reminded me that the d6 pawn doesn't really play much in this game, and it's all about speed of attack when the kings are castled on opposite sides.
Yeah, but Yej is very slow. By the way, also the pawn on f2 was under attack. I'm not really sure he has the time to protect this pawn. I suppose he felt he has the time. Why not, by the way, the same move f4 as you were suggesting? He is missing the typical Daxway bishop for this position. I think here Black somehow needs to get things going at the queen side. Rook c8 is a typical dragon move, so Black is clearly thinking about ideas like knight e5, knight c4, maybe double the rooks at the c file and try to get to the white king.
And keep in mind, you brought up something very important. It's already more than a minute advantage. So in games 1, 2, and now game 4, big clock advantage for Andy. In fact, you could argue this is his biggest clock advantage. The one game that Yej won, he kept the clocks close and in fact won in a mutual time scramble. We cannot ignore the fact that Andy's pre-tournament strategy is working, and he's playing faster pawn takes pawn on g6. Okay, so white is getting some lines open, but in the opening of the lines, the bishops for Black also come into play.
Yeah, this h6 on g6 is something normal you don't want to get in a dragon. But again, this is a very concrete position. He takes on f5. I think white is dreaming about ideas like queen g5, queen h4, try to get the checkmate on h7, possibly maybe use these knights, maybe play g4, anchor the knight on f6 at some point. So it's not even clear who is doing better here. I mean, obviously I see the bar, it's at the position is level, but I don't think this game is going to end peacefully.
Yeah, we have this old expression in chess, there is no mate with a bishop on g7. Even if we pick the queen up and put her on h4, Black could play rook on f to e8 or d8 and give the king enough space. So the knights have to play a part in the attack, as you pointed out. And here come the knights. By the way, if even one bishop trades for the knights, we usually say that the power of the bishops is reduced by even more than half when one of them goes away. They don't work nearly as well when they're not working in tandem. So even one trade of one knight for one bishop would do a lot to reduce the mutual power of black's minor pieces.
Big decision for Yej. He was choosing between b3 and knight b3. He decided to play b3. This opens up the long diagonal for the darks with bishop. Queen c5 makes kind of sense, threatening queen a3, king b1, maybe a5, a4. I suppose, can you take on f5? I mean, this is something you have to calculate very quickly. I mean, take on f5, bishop takes on c3, knight e7, king g7, queen h6, king f6, and you have to do this in seconds.
I was able to follow, but only barely. That's like returning a Carlos Alcaraz serve. By the way, he's making a comeback, as I understand, just like Yej is trying to. But here we go with that g4 plan. I would have been tempted to take the knight, but yeah, there are some dangerous dark squares looming. So will the bishop go all the way back, or will black take on d4? I think black is valuing the dark squared bishop more than the white for obvious reasons. So I think we will see a bishop retreat, but where?
Yeah, bishop e6. So I think Woodward's choice is perfectly understandable. He has more time on the clock, so this means he does not want to simplify the position. He wants to keep the queens on the board, have some attacking chances. At the same time, watch out for queen h2 ideas. Does he have the time to play a5, a4, take on b3, and sacrifice something on b3? Is there a move c5 here? These are the things you have to calculate very quickly. And he blundered. That's a piece sacrifice, Mike. I mean, c5 is g5 with the idea to play knight f6, takes, rook h8, queen h6, queen g7. Look at this tactical vision by the young Turkish superstar.
I love what you just said. We said there's no mate with the bishop on g7, so his goal is to get rid of the bishop on g7. And I'm glad for Andy's sake that he's banked this time. But as you can see by the eval bar, even the extra 30 seconds he had when this move started are not going to help him if Yej plays correctly. A wonderful idea, pawn to g5. Knight f6 check, and then you have to take it. The pawn on f6 just seals the black king's fate. And it looks like maybe one move faster will be white's attack. Now, black could take twice on b3 and go for a perpetual, but black now sees that pawn has to be gotten rid of, so he sacks the exchange to get rid of it, but here comes the queen anyway.
Now, there's got to be some checkmate already here. Rook g1 something. There's a sacrifice on g6. Now, things are completely turning over. Rook g1, yet another double exclam move here. Yej is completely on fire. One mistake by Woodward, and he's immediately punished. Rook takes on g6 is a killing threat. Rook and queen, they make a deadly tandem together. Bishop g7, queen e6, I think seals the deal. Queen d6, king f7. Where's the win? Where's the win? Where's the win? Queen c7 check. Where do you go with the king? I think that does it, actually. There's no good square for the king.
Yeah, the king wants to go backward, but then the rook gets taken with check, and then there's no mate on b2. So instead the king comes on a walk. I assume he's getting mated, but the simple move of queen takes, stopping the mates, and the king is still on the run. And there we see a resignation. And yeah, Andy shakes his head a little bit. He's gone from 13.5 out of 14 to 0-2 in his last two games. So we would play a fifth set if this was a Grand Slam, but actually this is a Grand Slam plus because we're playing six sets of chess.
Right. Can I play back again this critical moment here, if I may, because I know the players are about to start their next game. So here with this crazy moment after king b1 here, c5 was a very natural move, keeping the knight on d4, threatening with the queen b2 checkmate. But this g5 idea, they changed everything, because the big idea was what you did not see in the screen. Knight f6, g takes an f6, and let's say black plays something like a5 here. You can sometimes even play rook h8, king h8, queen h6, king g8, queen g7. The most important thing is Yej saw this in seconds.
Yeah, and that's quite impressive. Now, we'd expect a player of Yej's caliber to be pretty good at puzzle solving, but I would say that g5 probably was a puzzle level move, meaning it was probably the only move there for white. It got the double exclam, which is often indicative that it is the only move, and it's a lot better than most of my double exclams, which are a little more obvious. When your knight is threatened and you play a calm pawn move, that is a 3,200 level tactic, maybe even higher. So everything to play for. It's 2-2. No more b3 stuff. The players are playing real chess. We got a Queen's Gambit decline. Here we go. We are on serve in game number 5.
Yeah, so I think it's going to be, again, a repeat of some of the previous games. Like, I think that we already saw some Catalan. There you go. Yet again, Catalan's on the board. But this time here, Erdomos goes for something else. An early d takes on c4, which can be pretty spicy. queen a4 check. Here, white attempts to win back the pawn on c4. This is a very common theme because if white picks up the pawn on c4, black plays e5 typically and does enjoy an equal game. Now, the question is, can you play knight e5 here? No, and they opt for the simple choice.
Yeah, and going back to the last time that Andy had white in game 3, Yej was never really in trouble, either on the clock or on the board. So Yej is hoping to get a rather calm game again. Mhm. I'm being told you don't hear me. Archers, are you there? We've lost Archers. So hopefully the audience can hear me. I'm running solo on the chess, it looks like. But this is very similar to game number 3. Remember that Yej had that queenside pawn majority and played much more quickly. And we're seeing a repeat right now because he's got about the same kind of position, right? Queenside pawn majority and equal clocks. So we'll try to get Archers back. We're definitely going to need him for his chess. And it could be that his earbuds have run out of power, but that's okay. The players have not run out of power. You can see Andy totally locked in on the left, and it is about as long, I think, as Andy gets. You can see he's up to 30 seconds on a move, which is a veritable Lord of the Rings-esque length there for Andy. He almost never takes his time out of the opening like this. He's probably wondering whether or not the bishop trade and then knight c3 favors him. Instead, he goes for bishop b4, which is going to be answered by bishop d6. I don't understand the weight here. Why would Yej not play bishop d6? Archers, you're back, and I tried to fill in as best I could.
Yeah, my headphones died. I don't know what happened here. I think they were fully charged, and yet somehow for the critical phase of the moment of the match, they decided to give up on me. Okay, I hope you can hear me loud and clear. So here, I'm back in business, and this is the position we have on the board. Don't worry about me. I'm good. I'm good.
Good. I thought Yej had to play bishop d6, but he's mixing it up here. He's really testing the power of your iPods, your AirPods, iPods. You can see how old I am. The point is, if the queen's traded and the rook on f8 was captured, then b2 was hanging, so he saw a little bit more than me. And we avoided all those complications, but now the black pieces are slightly taking over the position as compared to when we lost you, Archers.
Right. Yeah, so here, again, it's a slightly disbalanced position because both players have their pros and cons, meaning both players enjoy some pawn majority at for example, here, Yej has a pawn majority at the queen side, so he plays queen c4, tries to be ambitious here. Whoa, rook d1, hanging the bishop on b4, but I suppose you cannot take it because black has some back rank issues here. And if the bishop moves away to defend the rook on d8, how about the pawn on b7? So again, this is the moment here, Mike, where you have to calculate things very quickly. So the big question, who is the faster calculator? Is it Yej or Andy?
Well, Andy's been struggling. I don't know if he's been calculating or thinking about positional ideas, but this is the first actual advantage Yej has had on the clock. So somehow either Andy, A, doesn't feel comfortable, or B, is forcing himself to try to find an advantage as white in his last turn as white and is finding frustration and not being able to do so. But for whatever the reason, Andy is repeating game 3 in the sense that he's got no advantage out of the opening, no advantage out of the clock, and the momentum shift has gone Yej's way. He's won the last 2 games. He's no slower on the clock and doing pretty well here in his final turn as black.
Yeah, and also, of course, online blitz is all about streaks, right? When you get in the rhythm, you win 1 game, you win 2 games, you win 3 games, you get more confidence. So this is, by the way, pretty normal. I'm not like in classical chess. So again, Andy started with 2 victories. Now it was Yej's time to fight back. A truly spectacular finale. And again, I think it once again proves that both players have to be here in this final, and they are. H6 is a very nice move, just in case to make sure that black is not going to blunder some cheapo queen e8 check.
Yeah, a high-class waiting move, as we say. And I've got my Peshka stress toy right here. I'm squeezing him right now because I really don't know what's going to happen in this position. There's not a lot of, dynamic pawn structures or anything here. But I would also imagine that Yej should be very happy just to take his equal score into the final game as white. So not a very exciting game, but maybe that's what you want as black, just shut things down. And remember, the last mutual time scramble they had in game 3, Yej got the best of it. Yej is actually up 45 seconds here, and Andy does not want to waste his last turn as white and moves his queen back to e1. But black's pieces, I still think, are taking over the game.
The position, by the way, is still pretty level, but since you mentioned the yellow Peshka here, Mike, I have to mention I have the green Peshka right here, so I could actually do exactly the same as you are doing. So we're having the same Same equipment, essentially. All right, bishop a3 retreats here. It seems that black's position is visually slightly better here because he has more active pieces. The bishop on a3 for white is slightly disconnected from the game, and I think here Andy is trying to somehow bring the bishop in the game by playing b3, bishop b2. So the question is, what can Yagiz do during this time? And the answer is, I want to go for a king's attack. A king's attack. How about h5, h4?
Yeah, white has been doing nothing but shuffling the pieces around and going backwards. So Yagiz says, I'm going to take advantage of both the position and my advantage on the clock, because if Yagiz keeps pressing white, then white is going to have more things to figure out with only 18 seconds left on the clock. So a good strategy over the board and a good strategy based on the clock situation. The black pieces are still sort of hanging out. I'm surprised at how few trades we've had. 10 seconds left for Andy to figure out how to play the rest of this game.
Yeah, queen h5 looks very tempting. Now black is having all the fun. Queen g5. Okay, this comes with a cheaper threat. Bishop takes on g3 and queen takes on e3. I was also thinking, Mike, about some g6 and king g7 ideas, but of course, at the same time, you cannot forget that white potentially could play f4. Was that a queen sack? By the way, look at this. I mean, this was a crazy moment here. What we did not see on the screen, I believe, Yagiz was sacrificing a queen, and Andy on second decided not to take it. Just unbelievable, unreal stuff.
I could not figure out f4 either. Weirdly, the white pieces, which don't seem to be doing coordination very well, they're actually taking over, and black is losing his entire queen side here while he tries to figure out how to conjure a king side attack. So 5 seconds left for each player, and if black doesn't do anything, the white pawns can march up the board, and those are moves you can play quickly. That's very important, of course, when you've got 5 seconds left. So the black pieces are coming over to try to stop those pawns. Now the bishop's doing double duty, stopping the pawns and aiming at the white king. Bishop e3, you don't really want to play that move, but it gets the pawns going again. Right, can you just play
now the white king is getting to the safety. Yeah, this king with the queen c1 here. Black is attempting to go for a counterattack. Of course, he cannot trade the queens. Is there a mate? Queen h5, rook h6, queen f5, rook g6. White should be completely winning here. Black has no attack, I think, and is going to do it. There's a mate. Where's the mate? He wins the queen.
It's got to be somewhere. Yeah, that wins the queen, and that is good enough. So, wow. Andy was super low on time and getting pressed, and yet he somehow was able to eke out that victory. So Andy resumes his lead. He's up 3-2. If this was the French Open finals, it would be over, but it's not. It is the ChessKid Youth Championship, and we do play a game 6. Yagiz gets the chance to serve one more time, and it's very simple. It's win or go home for our defending champion. Andy gets a very quick sip of water. There's not going to be a very long break here. We're certainly not going on break. They're about to play their next game in a matter of a couple of seconds.
Also, I want to mention here, Mike, that there's no draws. There's no draws, no prisoners taken here today. Either win or lose. That's how it goes in online blitz. And again, every single game of this final match delivers. And the games are starting. Are we going to see the repeat of the same line, bishop g5, g6, that Woodward played a couple of games ago? Yes, and that's what he have on the board.
Yeah, Yagiz hesitated for about 2.5 seconds before playing bishop g5, thinking, hey, did I get a pretty decent position? He ends up going for the exact same thing again. Remember, there was a very imbalanced position, and when you're playing for a win, you kind of like that. However, he got a little scaredy cat, and he castled to the right side of the board, so Yagiz probably realized, hey, even though I won that one, I didn't like those bishops aiming at me, but he's got to win. And before we get going with game analysis, let me remind you, if Yagiz wins, and we're tied 3-3, the tiebreaker is 2 games of 3+1, and if still tied, then we'll go to Armageddon. And if we get all the way there, of course, I'll explain the procedures. But before we get there, Yagiz has to win as white.
And compared to game 4, where they played exactly the same line, in that line, Yagiz played a long castle, and he got quickly in trouble. And even though he won the game, he probably checked the game very quickly with a computer. He decided to continue with a short castle here. And what I really love about his approach is that he is principled. He played exactly the same stuff. He says, I'm not going to get scared easily, right? You play your g6, bishop g7 stuff. I trust my opening prep. Let me just slightly improve what I'm playing, but I'm still going to choose this continuation.
Let me ask you a question here, Arturs. Do you think that white is more likely to go d6 pawn grabbing with his king in a little bit of a safer spot as opposed to the previous game in game 4?
Not really sure. Yeah, the big
Okay.
question is, can you take the pawn on d6? But visually, I really love Woodward's position. The bishop on g7 is monstrous, so black's position is very easy to play. So what I would try to do here, I would try to cancel one of black's bishops. So how do you do that? Something like bishop a4 or bishop b3 here. Now, that's a move I was expecting already in the previous game, but no, a4. No, that's a pretty mysterious move to me. Why would we do that?
Maybe he's going to take on d6 and didn't want bishop takes c3 and then the pawn on a2 to get lost. I don't know. I'm grasping at straws here, but he's probably just getting the pawn out of harm's way. I don't think the pawn's going anywhere. Anyway, he played it. It's there. Now he plays the move knight e4. Computer doesn't like it.
Yeah, so d5 is on the board, so why did not pick the pawn? And Woodward says, okay, I'm going to protect it. If you don't want it, I'm going to keep it. Knight g5 here, I think we have a chance to get obstacle bishop position on the board. So what Yagiz wants to do, he wants to take on e6, play something like c3, bishop d3, and potentially play h4, h5, expose the king. Again, this is exactly what you want in the time scramble. And that's why also Woodward here, he has to evaluate the consequences here very quickly. For example, the big burning question here, Mike, is, can you actually take the pawn on b2? I mean, it's right there. It's hanging right there. But what about c4?
c4 or even c3, I was trying to calculate if you're going to trap your own bishop, or at least it has to go all the way around the world to get back in the game. If I'm Andy, it's almost like I'm looking for liquidation ideas too, because remember, the draw is a win for him, essentially. So you're actually thinking about two things. How do I make good moves? But also, do I have any ways of like just knocking all of the fun out of the position and simplifying? By the way, the move a4 here now provides some utility. There's no queen b6 check picking off the bishop. So maybe Yagiz saw more and he knew he was going to push his f3 pawn one day. Who knows?
But can I roll back a bit? Because there was this incredible moment I would just like to show again on the screen. So after knight g5, I just love this move, Mike. Bishop g4. Bishop g4, f3, bishop e6. It feels like it's a colossal waste of time. But when you think about the larger picture, that after knight x on e6, f takes on e6, white does play h4, h5. Now the king in many lines is weak. So I think Andy saw what here Yagiz is planning to do from the white's perspective. He gave up to Tempe just like that, simply removing white this opportunity to go for a king set attack. This is super high level stuff.
Yeah, there you go. When you've got a dark square bishop and your opponent doesn't, you can spend two tempos sometimes just to weaken the dark squares even further. Now, the computer doesn't like this move, but sometimes the computer is basically saying that there was a move that provided a bigger advantage. This is not a blunder or anything, but apparently bishop d3 is a blunder. Let's figure out why. Queen b6, the king needs to run, b2 is hanging, and all the dark squares are falling on both sides of the board for the white team.
There might be also a problem with the bishop h6. That's a move I was looking at for quite a while. But okay, here Woodward decides to grab the pawn on b2. After all he needs is just a draw in this position. I think right now he's becoming a very big favorite, because also the clock situation is looking pretty good for Andy. Knight h5. Desperate move by the young Turkish superstar. He's trying to complicate things at a king set, as he should.
How do you get the queen of the game? If the knight gets captured, bishop takes h7, king h8, your queen's not playing chess right now. How does the queen involve herself in the attack? Now, Andy does have this bank of time. Don't be surprised if he spends 15, 20, 25 seconds here, because he knows if you can take the knight, that probably just wins the game. It looks to me like you can take the knight, but obviously it's a critical decision you have to get right.
He decided not to take it, plays h6 on the bar, marks it as a mistake. Apparently, he could have taken it. Okay, we're going to see how the game is going to continue. Can you play knight x on g7? Again, remember, all Andy needs here is just a draw. He doesn't need necessarily to win the game. He's just trying to secure the victory in the match. 5 seconds for Yagiz.
Yeah, and h6 maybe was a practical decision. Maybe he said, look, I'm comfortable in my position. It's solid without taking. He's going to play queen c3 here and get the queens off the board if he can. He's going to play knight c5 here. I'm just guessing moves, but yeah, he's playing all of the liquidation moves, exactly what I was saying. At some point in the game, if he sees a liquidation, he's going to do it, and it's very hard to believe he could lose this position with 50 extra seconds on the clock. If he gets one set of rooks off the board, that will do even more to get his drawing chances up. But he's going to play rook a2 or rook a8 very soon. The only thing you can't let the rooks do is pile up on the 7th rank against your f7 pawn. He's not going to allow that.
There's still some tricks here in the position. Rook a8, I suppose. No, rook a2, very nice move here found by Andy. So if white trades the pawn on d3, the pawn on d4 is gone, and essentially all the chances here for the Turkish player are lost to win the game. So that's why he's going to try to keep the position as complex as possible. There comes the rook for black. Rook b7 here. Yes, attempts to complicate matters. Go after the pawn on f7, but he wins on time.
He did win on time, and the only saving thing there for Yez is that he wasn't able to win that position anyway. But by the virtue of his 4-2 victory, Andy Woodward is our 2025 ChessKid Youth Champion in the under-16 division. He denies Yez Erdemush the back-to-back championships, and we have ourselves a nice little rivalry going. They've met 2 straight years in the knockout portion, but Andy evens the score there. There you see our champion. He knows that he's going to get interviewed again in just a minute. So he's probably trying to clear his headspace, though. Fantastic chess. He played faster chess. He played very confident. And he made a very good practical decision at the end there by playing h6 and perhaps not taking the knight. Great stuff, Arturs. And I think he really put himself on the map. If you didn't already get impressed by his win over Ray Robson in the Chess.com Puzzle Championship, I think today's play probably earned him a lot of new fans.
I think also we have to give a big shout out to Yez because he played pretty impressive chess. He had a slow start earlier today, like he lost the very first 2 games, and Andy was just better. At least it felt so in the very beginning. And yet then the Turkish player came back roaring, and at some point already I was doubting that maybe Andy's not the favorite in this match anymore. But no, ultimately it was the young American who proved to be the better player. But still, amazing fight from Erdomas.
Totally agree. Let's take a look at the final bracket there. Yez has played in many ChessKid events in the past. This is the first time I ever remember him playing from behind. And as you said, he acquitted himself well. He got right back in the match. But ultimately, Andy was too fast and too solid, I would say, in that final game. So Andy wins 4-2. He takes home $3,000. Where's my $3 bill? It's like I got to get 1,000. Got to get 1,000 of these bills for Andy.
Are you going to burn them right now?
There we go. Yeah, I'm gonna go back to Rarotonga and get him a bunch of bills. So we're gonna have Andy Woodward chat with us right after this quick break. We get to hear from the 2025 Youth Champion, ChessKid Youth Champion, Andy Woodward. Don't go anywhere, and we'll talk to him after this short break.
We're here for another world premiere. This one, fencing chess with one chief chess officer to another. I'm excited about fencing chess. What about you, Danny?
I'm super excited. This is innovative and never been done before.
All right, well, you need a weapon. So there you go. We got these from Burger King. And, well, let's get going. Are you ready?
As soon as we start,
okay, I think we touch swords. Okay, here we go. All right, we are rolling. All right, it's working.
You can't. Okay, it has to be working. Square.
Nailed it.
That was the rule. That was the rule.
Do they fence in Sicily?
Yeah.
Here we go.
There we go.
All right, this is a winning move if I can make it.
I don't know that this is as exciting as we thought it was.
I used the two-hand technique. They don't teach you about that on YouTube.
Yeah.
You know what? This is not going to work.
Not going to work.
We got to come up with something else.
I agree.
Oh, well, wait a minute. We just happen to have some partners in crime with USA Fencing joining us. So if one of them scores a point or a touch, then the corresponding partner gets to make a move. Capturing the king wins the game. That's it. That's all. I will let you start not the joust, the battle. The bout.
The bout. Come on, Mike. All right, Andy, you got this. Let's go, Anna. Go, Anna. Go, Anna. Come on. Yes, aggressive. Okay, so Sasha scored?
No, Anna scored.
Anna scored.
Yeah, she almost
Let's go.
Show up the match.
Okay, black moves first in this game, apparently. Let's go right now.
Come on, Sasha.
Oh, back to some.
That's actually my right.
Oh my God, I'm so nervous. I don't even understand what's going on.
I thought I understood there. there's
Okay.
prodding.
Okay. I like the technique over here from Anna. I move.
Yeah.
Let's go. This is not an opening you should play, kids, but I'm all in. I'm all in.
Oh no, it's happening again. What, Sasha? I need you, Sasha. Game
over. Over. Anna, what I'm talking about.
What's that? It's okay.
That was the easiest game of chess I've ever played in my life. That was amazing. Okay.
All right.
But we're going to do a best of threes. You don't get to hit me with the sword.
Wear your love of chess on your sleeve with all new apparel and accessories from the Chess.com merch store. Maybe you simply want a clock that will never run out, or a mouse pad that will finally unlock your speed chess potential. Whether you play chess to get energized with your morning coffee, or play into the wee hours of the night and witness the occasional alien abduction, we've got something for every king, queen, and knight in shining armor. Even gift cards for your loved ones who've caught the chess bug. So check out the Chess.com shop for apparel, accessories, and more. Grab your favorites before they're gone.
Welcome back, everybody, to the 2025 ChessKid Youth Championship, the post-mortem. And for the second time this year, Andy Woodward has won a Chess.com event. Don't mess with Texas. We are here with the man of the hour, Grandmaster Andy Woodward. He is now he holds two titles at the same time, the Chess.com Puzzle Championship and the ChessKid Youth Championship. Andy, congratulations and welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, it's always good to be here.
Well, let me start out by trying to combine these two championships. You were head-to-head with Ray Robson when you beat him. You were head-to-head here with Yagiz. Two strong 2600s, but two different formats. Which one made you more nervous, the Puzzle Championship or this regular chess championship?
Actually, that's a good question. They were both actually really tense. And they kind of had the same sort of story. So, I mean, probably this one actually, because it was more of like, I guess I was trying to just win games, and it wasn't really easy.
Absolutely. And we were chatting before the interview began. Round 3 was critical. That was the first round you did not get a big time advantage. And in that wild time scramble, things did not go your way. You almost could have put things away and gone ahead 3-0. But then as soon as after that loss, it was 2-1, and you had to go to break. What were your thoughts during that break, that ill-timed break?
Yeah, I guess I was going into the break. I was, of course, a little bit annoyed at myself, but I guess I just tried to get my mind off by playing some basketball, and then yeah, I guess it just like helped a little bit. Although I did lose the fourth game, so I guess I was just trying to mentally prepare for the next games because it wasn't over yet.
Okay, I want to ask a quick follow-up, and I want Archers to come in here too, but The breaks are 5 minutes. So how much basketball were you playing? Or is it one of those Nerf things that goes over the door to your, was it a real did you run outside and play blitz basketball? How does that work?
Yeah, I guess I have a basketball goal outside, so I just went and shot a couple baskets and came back.
Okay. Well, we took a peek at the French Open final. You chose a different sport. It worked. Archers, what would you like to ask our champion?
Yeah, first, of course, congratulations on the well-deserved victory. Speaking about the break, we are discussing with Mike after the semifinal matches that you had this look in your eyes, and I had a feeling that you were not really reviewing the games, but you were looking for somebody to play a bullet game. Is this something you were doing in between the semifinal and final matches, or you were still playing basketball?
Yeah, I mean, I actually played like a couple like really fast games today, to warm up like 10-second, um, just to like get my mouse speed a bit higher. Um, because I did a couple puzzle rushes and they didn't go well. So I thought, um, why not just win a bullet game to bump up my confidence? But during the in between games, I didn't really think about playing bullet.
Well, let me
All right.
ask you, the chess.com Hyper Bullet Community Championship starts in, I think, 4 days. Are you going to play in that? I'm actually not sure if titled players are allowed to play in our community championships, but are you going to play in the Hyper Bullet Championship if you're allowed?
Maybe. It depends because yeah, I guess I'm a bit busy during that weekend, but if I can make time, I'll probably play. So,
Cool. Maybe you'll have 3 titles under your belt at the same time. But I do want to ask you a very specific chess question. You only needed to draw in that last round. You were better. I'm sure you knew you were better. And then Yej played knight h5, hoping to open up the light square diagonal to your king. Talk us about that moment. If you thought you could take the knight, you ended up playing h6, but there was a range of other factors involved. What was going on in your head after knight h5?
yeah, actually, when I played the previous move, which was knight d4, I expected actually for him to go knight h5, um, because it's pretty much the only chance at counterplay. Um, And I guess already there I had started considering basically any move except for taking because it feels like taking is just practically a wrong decision, considering the tournament situation. So I I guess basically from the start I wasn't even considering taking the knight. Um, so yeah.
Okay, well, we had the luxury of not being practical players. We were analyzing it, but H6, I think, was perfect given the fact you only need to draw. You were way ahead on the clock, so you were giving him more things to worry about. So it made sense, and you can't argue with the results. Archers, what else would you like to ask Andy?
Yeah, maybe something about the general strategy for this chosen match or also the semifinal match. Maybe you could tell us something about your opening choices, what you decide to do specifically for this day, because we saw some Catalans yesterday. If I remember correctly, you played some London. Maybe your thoughts on that.
Yeah. So I guess yesterday I was mainly just trying to qualify. So I guess I was trying to play a bit more safe, like London. I feel like it's a less dangerous opening, more to just get like a positional game. And then it worked, I guess. But today I felt I needed to be a bit more decisive because London isn't very testing, especially if my opponents like Marco and Yes, they probably looked at the games and my games and saw that I was playing London. So I thought it was probably better to switch it up today, because I guess I just didn't want to get out prepared. So I wanted to play a bit more fighting chess today.
And
Yeah, in fact, I would say
considering that, oh, sorry. Considering
I was
that, I
just going to
wanted to
say
ask one more question about your best game today, since you switch your openings and now you decide to play some Catalan. Is there a game which stood out from all of them?
Yeah, probably my one of my better games today was round two against Yes, because I just feel like I I got a bit lucky, of course. But at the end, I guess, I just feel like I didn't make many mistakes. So yeah, he defended well actually. I thought at some point I thought maybe it's actually going to be a fortress, especially once his king was on e2. But luckily I had some chances because he was low on time.
Makes sense. A couple questions from the chat. Just Have Fun says, what are your upcoming events in the US and overseas?
Yeah, so in the US, I'm probably my next tournament is World's Open. And then after that I have US Juniors. So those are pretty much my next two tournaments. They're both in July, so a bit of time to prepare for that. And then overseas, I'm not sure yet. I mean, I've been looking at some tournaments, but yeah, not entirely sure.
Okay, and one more from Normal ET Super. If that's French, I'll say Normal A Super. Person is normal in Super. I'm pretty sure it's a French name. Do you think without engines, you would have been able to reach the same level?
That's a good question. To be honest, I think it's on the verge of no, but I think maybe I actually could. At least because many of my openings are, I guess, very like straightforward and stuff. So I kind of just try to repeat my openings over and over again. Yeah, I don't know if I don't know if I would make it to this level, but I feel like maybe I would have a chance.
Let me just ask you, do the engines approve of this variation of the dragon where you allow bishop takes f6? Because we haven't had a chance to check, but I presume you have. Is it a blitz only opening, or could you even play that in classical?
Yeah, it's mainly a blitz only opening. I mean, I've played it in classical maybe like once as a surprise, but yeah, it's mainly a blitz opening. It's like 0.7, I think. So it's dubious, but I just feel like if white doesn't really know what he's doing, it can get equal pretty fast. Because black has the bishop pair. So.
Yeah. And it worked out okay for you. Well, 4-2 winner over the defending champion. You got a little bit of revenge from last year. I'm sure you'll meet Yez online a lot, considering you've played over 300 games against him. So good luck, Andy, in your upcoming events, and congratulations on your second Chess.com title of the year.
Thank you. Yeah. Also, I would like to mention it's really awesome getting to play all these young people my age. I really enjoy the opportunity, and thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being a great competitor, and also, gets $3,000. So that was great. We got a chance to chat with him twice in 2 days. There we see the finals, and we've come to the end of our event. The under 13 was won by Aaron Reeves Mendez of Canada, and the under 16 is won by the American Andy Woodward. There's the final look at the bracket. I want to thank everybody on my team who made this event possible. Of course, Arturs Nixons, who was with me the entire weekend, Ben Feingold, who was with me for the under 13 edition. Your expert analysis was needed, and for that 60 seconds that your microphone didn't work, I was like a fish out of water, but I'm glad that you came back because we really needed your analysis. So thank you, Arturs, for your time this weekend.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. I absolutely enjoyed it. So having the opportunity to do the commentary for Chess.com usually is one of the most important things to me. So, thanks again for having me. And of course, big congratulations to the winners, especially to Andy. And also, like everybody said, huge shout out for the semifinalists. Of course, the finalists, yes, of course, but also semifinalists. Faustino and Marco, they played really impressive chess, and I'm really hoping that they will be the world's future elite in a couple of years.
I'm sure they will be. And I want to do a few more impromptu thank yous. Michael Brancato, Michael Scolani, who helped set this up. Our fantastic producer, Ryan, who helped us out all weekend. David Butler. People on the Fair Play and the Ops team. People like Simon and Lily Fuentes. I'm not naming everybody, but I wish I could. Akshansh was in the chat. So this all came together. And of course, the man on the hour. the man on camera, that is, on behalf of myself, the ChessKid, the Chess.com team, Grandmaster Arturs Nixons, thank you all so much for tuning in this weekend. One final congratulations to our champion, Grandmaster Andy Woodward. We'll be looking to see you again at the end of the week as we get ready for the Chess.com Community Championship. This event is going to be Hyperbullet, which is way too fast for me. So I'm going to take a break, but it's goodbye for now, and we'll see you at the Hyperbullet Championship later on this week.